Welcome to another episode of Just Another Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. I'm here with Ben Bishop. He's a comic creator from Maine. He created Lost Trail, Nathan the Caveman. He did the world's first split decision comic, The Aggregate, along with worked on Drawing Blood, Kevin Eastman's comic book, co-creator of TMNT. But he also works on TMNT stuff, and he's on Savage Dragon and Transformers and all kinds of other stuff that he has under his resume, you'd say. He also is the one of the artists that does the cans for Masons, which obviously brings it close to home for me. Not only the Bangor area brewery, but also I designed the cans for Orono Brewing Company. So a little bit of co things there. But welcome, Ben. How are you?
Good, man. How are you? It's good to be here.
I'm doing okay. I'm doing the best I can right now. I'm getting back to I actually worked a full day in the office for Orono Brewing Company today, in the office,
Wow.
which was different because I've been working from home. But we're
Yeah,
hoping to
you were
open
like,
on Wednesday.
I could do all
so it
this
was
from
like,
home. Well,
which
that's
is
cool.
kind of,
Wednesday.
we're all learning that though right now. Like we're all
Mhm.
learning that it's likely possible for most of us to do our jobs remotely. And
Mhm.
when you end up going into the office, you're like, yeah, this is cool. I got dressed and took a shower and drove in my car 20 minutes to get to an office that I could have
Mhm.
done the same things sitting at my
Yeah,
house. But
I want to say like, well, that human interaction and stuff, but like that's what we're trying to avoid. But like that's the good reason to go back once it's safe. It's like, well, I really need that. Like I think everyone's missing that. Obviously, I barely got it, and I'm like, hey, what the hell? Like,
I think
so.
it's a lot of us. Well, my job, I mean, as a general manager of Owner Brewing Company, I interact with customers. So it's like I
Mhm.
went, my fiance is high risk, so we haven't been going out. Like I've been going
Mhm.
to the grocery store if I need to or whatever, but she hasn't gone out. And so I also work for Woodman's, which is our sister or brew pub restaurant. And we were
Mhm.
like going there just to check it out, maybe get some to-go food because we opened that a couple weeks ago. And we're like
Mhm.
looking at the patio. We're like, there's no one out there. We should probably sit down and just, have a, you know, dinner there.
Yeah.
And it was so weird for her, someone who's been sitting at home for 3 months. When people are like,
Right.
hey, how's it going? She's like, wow, I haven't actually had someone say that to me in 3 months. So
Yeah,
it's been really
it's
weird.
very strange. Yeah, and even when I am like around other people, I have the mask on, and so like I got out of my car today to get to the studio, and there happened to be, someone in a van nearby, and they had their window closed, and so they were able to be like smile and wave, and I was like I was like I'm smiling, but she had no idea. It just looked like I was like shooting her or angry look or something.
Smile with
But
your eyes, Ben. Smile with your eyes.
mhm. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Well, it's like, I mean, a lot of it, I do that. Like when I go to the grocery store, I'm always like just to
Yeah,
hide the
it's
big
very
smile, like, hey,
exaggerated. Yeah,
me behind the mask is just me going,
yeah. You don't even have to do it anymore. Just
but I
uh,
mean, I guess for you, I mean, a lot of it's been, you do a lot of things remotely anyway, right? I mean, you're in your studio,
mhm,
but you have like, if you're working on a comic book for someone else, you're probably
mhm.
doing that via phone or video conference call anyway, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty secluded anyway. I shared a studio with a couple guys, Joe Schmalke and Dylan Andrews, for maybe 2 or 3 years, leaning towards three. And just because I needed more space for shipping and to make bigger things and kind of spread out, I ended up moving here to this Westbrook space out of Portland. But aside from those guys, like we would just see each other. And like now, obviously, even without the virus, I wasn't seeing anyone since I moved here really day to day. I did one convention this year before they all got canceled. It was a big one too, so I was pretty scared. It was Chicago in March, which was like right when we
Ooh.
were. I think it was the last weekend of February, first weekend of March or something. So like crossed over. And yeah, so luckily I don't think I got it. Otherwise, I'm immune, which would be dope. But I don't really see many people. Like, so that's one thing I'm missing is seeing people at conventions. But I've been saying for years, like I gotta take a year off from convention. I gotta take a year off from conventions. Traveling is so nuts. Like, and every show I go to, I can never bring enough stuff, and it's always stressful. And I hate flying. I'm terrified of flying, and so. But it's like now that my hand has been forced, I kind of miss it. Like I want it to be my choice. I definitely miss seeing the people and just hanging out and conventions were always like kind of like a mixer afterwards, like big, like you felt like if I go to bed early or something, and most of the times because I was just dead tired, like I
Hmm.
feel like I may have like missed an opportunity, like, oh, who could have been there that I would have met, and maybe get this other job from, or a connection or introduction, whatever. But so I miss all that stuff. It kind of feels like, even though I'm working on like 3 books at the same time right now, it feels like I'm spinning my wheels, which is scary. But that's only because I'm not, you know, I don't have those like milestones of like a con and, again, meeting people and pushing things forward. But yeah, I'm good alone a little bit, I think. I've got you guys. I've got the Bishart Kids Club.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I love your message this morning on the group about shipping the Bish Kids box, and about
Yeah.
how we know you guys are all complainers, so I want to know this ahead
Yeah.
of time.
Yeah. So
But
Justin's part of the Bishart Kids Club. The Kids Club is like this idea I had to do something between like a Loot Crate subscription box and a somewhere between that and just a general Patreon, where it's like, your patronage, your help, your support goes towards me, doing whatever. But I wanted to make them actually get stuff for it, so I do like quarterly boxes, as you know.
Mhm.
And the group I started in 2017, and now we're like just about to break 100 members, and like a lot of those 2017 members are still there, and they were getting it like when I was just figuring it out. Like when I first started, and it was like 10 guys, I was just like, okay, what do you already have from me? And they would tell me, and I would keep this spreadsheet, and then every single month I'd be sending out whatever they didn't have. And then it got to a point where not only was that impossible to keep track of over like 10 members, but they ran out of stuff. Like I didn't have any like new comics or something that they didn't already have. And so what I started, I think maybe 6 months or so ago, I think we're on the 3rd box now, is quarterly boxes, and the boxes are all full of all exclusive stuff, which you're going to get your first box like in a week or so, I think.
whenever media
Right?
mail gets to us, I know I ship a lot of things
Yeah,
media mail,
media.
and they don't go that fast. Tell you that much.
Well, I ship everything media because it is media, so I don't care. No, but I offered the Bish Kids this morning, to what you were saying, the option to upgrade to priority, because a lot of people don't like to wait. And actually, the last box was the worst we ever had with the wait, because of everything that's happening with the virus. I sent everything in one day, and all the Maine and Massachusetts and New York guys, they all went to North Carolina, and then they went from North Carolina to Springfield, Mass, and stayed in Springfield, Mass for like 2 weeks, and like just wasn't updating at all. So they're a little scared of that, but that was because of the virus, wasn't because of me.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I actually was so funny. I was just talking to my fiance like last night. I was laying in bed, and I don't know why I just got taken with like frustration with Amazon. Like obviously, I order a lot of stuff on Amazon, like everybody else does, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just frustrated because I'm like, I think July 28th of this month, yes, it's this like coming up month, is my renewal for Amazon Prime, and so I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking in my mind, I pay $120 a year, and I know
Yeah,
we're all dealing with stuff with this COVID stuff, but like, I just
they
ordered
could
something
they could
on
throw back.
I just ordered something on. We were sitting outside, so we were watching. We're watching Dexter. I have never
Mm-hmm.
seen it. She had seen it, so I was like, "Oh, we're caught up on some things because of COVID. Obviously, we've had a lot of extra time." I was like,
Yeah,
"Dexter would be
people are
kind of cool
really
to
reaching.
watch."
Yeah,
So I
I like it.
started to watch Dexter, but I was like, I also want to sit on our porch. So it was like, I
Oh, I
got
saw
the
your
whole
I
like,
saw that.
so like to tie up between, do we watch TV in our like theater room, or do we watch TV, or will we just sit outside and like maybe draw on the tablets or whatever? And it's like, what if we just watch TV outside? I have a spare TV that I
Mm-hmm.
had in the kitchen at one point, and so we watched it outside. And that moment, watching that TV, I ordered a outdoor projector, like a screen, a stand for it, and a projector, so that we can actually project movies outside in our lawn.
Yeah,
And so
you're
I
like,
ordered
never
it.
again.
Well, I ordered it 2 weeks. It's gonna take 2 weeks for it to get here. Amazon Prime. It's a
That's not.
Prime. It's not like random. It's like it will be
Yeah.
here sometime between now and July 14th. And I'm like, I just paid extra. Like, and there's no option. So like, even if you're a Prime, be like, hey, we can actually ship it faster for like
Mm.
$20. Because maybe I would be like, if you spend a couple $100, sometimes $20 is worth it. And I was like,
Yeah,
this is frustrating. So I got on Twitter and I was like complaining about shipping, because I'm like, I
I
order
think
something from
more.
Target and it comes in two
Yeah,
days. Like, why is
yeah.
it
It
that
might.
Amazon?
It might be that whoever they're getting it from,
Mhm.
it's like this big ripple effect. I'm never coming to Amazon's defense, trust me. But what they should do, because they just like Bezos just passed a trillion or something like that, for his personal worth or bank account. He could easily just be like, hey, we know we haven't been honoring what we sold you for 6 months. Here's half of it back, like 60
Yeah.
bucks a person or something. Like, Who cares? Just do it. People would be like, that was cool. Yeah, say what you will about that piece of crap, but he made good on half a year. Yeah.
And I mean, he obviously
But
they own Whole Foods now. My brother is
mhm.
like grocery bagger or whatever at Whole Foods in another state, and he said they all gave everybody basically works at Whole Foods hourly got a little bit of a bump in pay because they knew they're at the front, like they're their version of a frontline working because they're out there bagging people's groceries in the middle of this
Yeah.
pandemic. So he's at least doing something nice. But I was just in my mind, I was thinking I was so mad about shipping because I
Yeah.
sell things on eBay and I do a bunch of different stuff, ordering stuff, and I mean, you shipped out the stuff that I ordered from Bish Kids, the member exclusive stuff, and that came pretty quickly. And it was media mail. So it's like, it all depends. Like, depending on the day, it's like, it's random
Yeah.
how if I ship something on a Thursday, it's not going to get there till the following Friday. But if I shipped it on Monday, it would get there by Wednesday or something.
We've got two guys in the club who are USPS, and they always have really good insight. But most of the time, they're like, yeah, don't do media mail. Nobody cares about it. They do, because it's usually comics and stuff. But
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, people treat media like crap. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's like $4, which still isn't cheap. Like when you're talking 100 people, in all the regular orders I have, and priority is like 20. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, unless you guys want to pay for it. That's cool. Like, by all means. Like,
I
if it
mean,
gets damaged and gets returned to me, I'll send you another one. But
well, that's the other
unless
thing. I
it's
mean,
original
so,
art, then you're screwed.
well, speaking of that, now that you said 2017 is when you started Bish Kids?
Fish kids, yeah.
Yeah. So when you started that, obviously you were just sending things you had. Is it, and this is kind of a personal question for me, but also just in
Hmm.
general for everybody else to know. Do you start thinking about that now as you go forward? Like when you're doing a piece of art for a project you're working on or something else that you're actually creating things being like, this probably is going to go good in a box. So I'll just set this aside or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So now that everything is made just for the group, sometimes I'll be doing a commission or something, and I'll be like, "Ooh, I really like that," and then I might turn that into an exclusive print just for the group. So I know, I'm going to print this many and never print it again, because everything so far has been 100 print run. So like like I'm doing whole books. Like I did Drawing Blood issue 1. Did you see that one? And it was the
Yes.
process edition. I did a yellow sketch cover, yellow line paper, and on the inside it had the rough, the final, the rough, the final. So it's like 50 pages long or something, and that was only 100 copies ever made. So like, I don't think enough people know about the club yet to be like, oh, I got to get that. But once they find out and they see what they've missed, they're gonna be like, damn it. Like I did a giant 11 by 17 artist edition of the Raphael story I did
Hmm.
with Kevin Eastman, Target R, and that was like just all the original pages, no color, no words, limited to 100 copies, all signed and numbered. And so like, since I've been doing the exclusive stuff, like I'll pick stuff out as I'm working on it, like, oh, that would be a cool idea. Like, and I like keeping it a surprise. Like I'm still waiting on a few items for the latest box, and I've been complaining about it in the group. Speaking of shipping, I ordered this on June 4th, and it's still in production, and it's 100 pieces of paper. It's like a special print, and they still like are like, I don't know, maybe July 2nd. I'm like, you're called overnightprints.com. I'm like, I just want my money back. Like, give me my money back or refund me the cost of shipping, because I paid for like fast shipping. This clearly is not that.
Well, I think that's what Amazon does for their defense too. It's like, oh no, you do get 2 day shipping when we ship it. It's like
Yeah,
it's that aspect of your overnight shipping.
yeah,
Well, we'll give you overnight shipping. It's when we actually put it in the mail. Like we'll put it
yeah.
in the mail,
Whenever
but it
we
might take us a
figure
week to get it.
that's such a weird, like, fine print bullshit answer. Yeah.
That's pretty
But
funny.
anyway, we've been talking about shipping so damn
Yeah.
long.
So
I don't
I'll
care,
tell
but
you what. What's funny. So I'll do a little personal thing here. I didn't know Ben Bishop at all, like the person, or the artist, or that you even existed in this world until a couple of years ago.
mm,
And then I had just moved to Maine and went through divorce, so I had like a lot of less money, and so I wasn't buying a lot of things comic book related and so on. So I missed out on the
yeah,
Kickstarter for the Aggregate. However,
yeah,
just to let you know, not to make you feel bad because you didn't get my money for your second print, I went on
that's
Amazon
fine.
and I bought this for $5
Really,
with free
that's
shipping.
cool.
You know what it is?
Oh shit.
Listen,
Yeah.
you ready? It's signed, right? So
Okay.
it's a Kickstarter one. It's book 135.
Oh man, that one's actually numbered. I stopped numbering those very early on. Like I think I printed 2,000 of those. And I just was like, this numbering has become impossible, because I would like reach into a box and I would like give someone and be like, okay, what was I at? I had it all in my dry erase. So you have a numbered one. That's very rare, because
That's just so funny. For
I stopped.
$5, I'm like, I don't know, man. You were selling them for like $20 on your website, and I found it on eBay for $5. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll buy it on you. It's in good
Yeah.
condition.
You're the devil. No, it's fine. I appreciate it. What's funny about that too is like my very first book, Nathan the Caveman, I did when I was 18. Took 4 years, 300-page graphic novel. The first printing of that has been popping up on Amazon for like, I think the last I saw was like, did you see it?
900 and something bucks or something like that.
Yeah, it was like 900 something. I couldn't remember. Like, because at first, the first somebody told me about it, I was looking, it was like 170, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty dope. And then now it's up like almost to $1,000. So pretty cool.
I don't know. I every once in a while, like, I think what it was is I was creating on the website for this podcast, justanotherpodcast.com. I have like a little description, which I mainly copied obviously from your About Us or About You section on your website, just not the wording, but like what you did for projects and so on. And so I wanted to link to your site some of the books so that people could buy them if they wanted to buy them. And
Thanks, dude.
I know that like you did Lost Trail, which was one of your first or more early books, and you can get that. That's on Amazon. So I was like, this is where I got this one, was on Amazon. And
so that one was like 2011 it came out, and that was actually my first non-self-published work, I think, for a full book. Definitely for a full book, but maybe not for like covers or backups and things like that. And it was, because of Nathan the Game, I did spend all that time doing that first book. And that's why it took 4 years, because I was working at coffee shops and lobster shacks, Portland Lobster Company, Javanette Cafe on Exchange Street in Portland, the first internet cafe in Maine, and probably the last. And so the whole idea was to do this thing, this big, heavy 300-page book with a good story and good art, and hopefully someone will see it and say, hey, you want to draw Spider-Man? You want to draw this? You want to draw that? And it was actually Down East Magazine here in Maine who called me and was like, hey, we got your book, Nathan the Caveman. You actually sold it to us at the coffee shop you were working at. And they were like, you want to do a book with us? And I was like, sure. It's like superhero books, like, because they do all Maine stuff. I was like, so like Lobster Guy or Fisherman or something? They're like, no, it's this guy, Don Fendler. And the story behind Lost Trail is it's based on a book called Lost on a Mountain in Maine, which is a famous Maine story about Don Fendler who got lost on Mount Katahdin. And this is the adaptation that we did. And that book has been great for me, because now I go to schools, I do a lot of teaching, I do a lot of presentations. Like ever since 2011, I've been doing, multiple visits a year. This year has been very slow, of course, but regularly I might do like 10 to 12 visits a year, and it's really great. Schools just like buy piles of them, because every fourth and fifth grade, or fourth or fifth grade in Maine will get one, along with Lost on a Mountain in Maine. So it's been really awesome.
It's pretty awesome too, because like, I mean, think about it. Like you hear the stories of like comic book creators like Stan Lee or people like that who when people ask them at parties, back in the day, what do you do for a living? He's like, well, I'm an author, or I write books or whatever. And they're like, what kind of books? And like, oh, comic books. And then they immediately, now, if someone says I write comic books, they immediately jump to superhero, your Marvel, your DC and stuff like that. When you can actually go, hey kids, I drew a comic book, and it's like an actual, based off of a book that a lot of people in the world, or in Maine or New England, at least know that it's a historical book that really is something that a lot of kids in Maine read.
It's actually, and teachers have told me this, so I'm not just making it up, but like they've said, like their graphic novels areas in their libraries and stuff, they were very, very small before, and they're still most likely smaller than other areas in the library, but it's given librarians who may have already known this like an excuse to say like, no, this is reading too. And now getting all the other teachers on board, and then having me come in and showing like all the hard work I did to get there. Like I wrote to Marvel when I was 11, that didn't work out. I tried to go to Maine College of Art, that didn't work out. So it became about just self-publishing. It's like, if you want to make comics, just make comics. And so that became about just doing the work for 4 years. You can't say, oh, I draw comics. And they're like, okay, cool, what have you done? And if you haven't done anything, you don't really draw comics. So it's like, you got to finish something, see if someone sees it, see if they like it, led to Lost Trail, yada, yada. But like for the kids and for the teachers, it's given this like Don Fenler, the guy the book is about, like living legend, really amazing man, used to say in schools, I like it because, it gives kids who can't read well or don't want to read like a way into reading. And I used to think that was kind of like a dig. But I think he's right. I think he is right. Like, it's not like it's easier reading, but for someone like me, it's much more interesting, and for a kid like I would have jumped right on it. So I really like that.
I'll tell you right now, my personal story on that is that I didn't read well at all in school.
Yeah.
Up until like even my high school, like my freshman year in high school at Bangor High School, I was in like a reading class to learn how to read better. And I always say that when I talk about my love for comic books, I'm a huge Marvel fan, but like my love for comic books as a whole was it was short and easy to read. So it got me into wanting to read in general. And so I went from reading, the single like 28-page comic books, 30-page comic books to graphic novels to then going out and being like, okay, now I feel like I can tackle a book. So there was something about that, but it also brought me back into, I'm 34 years old and we're sitting in a room that's decorated with freaking comic book characters because it means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like, it's like we're never growing up kids. I mean,
no, and that's great.
but it's also what helps us and you, I guess. I mean, I would probably imagine it helps you. Is what something like the Marvel and superhero movies have done for the industry in a sense that makes it more approachable, but more like you're not a kid. You can be an adult and read a comic book or go see a Marvel movie or a DC movie or the superhero movies in the theaters and not be like, oh, you're going to see a kid's book or a movie made into a super feature film. It's like made it more achievable or more achievable, but like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know what word to use, but it's like it's respected
more
now.
I was gonna say palatable, but it's close. But that's not what we're looking for. But it's more like everybody is more apt to grasp onto it. It's more likely they'll grasp onto it. And if they don't, at least they know like they just don't get it because they're like the highest grossing movies of all time. So there's something there. Like it's characters with like motivation and that we care about and emotions and also giant spectacle, which we've always loved, but it's able to be weirder and stranger. So it's truly an escape, as opposed to watching like, a movie about freaking United 93 or something. It's like, that's got spectacle and stuff, but like we want to be taken away from the real world for a second.
And there are some things like my fiance reads books in 3 hours. Like she'll read a 600-page book in 3 hours. She just like rips through it. She reads.
I can't do that.
She tells me she reads by the paragraph. She tells me, I don't know what that exactly means, but it almost feels like she reads the entire paragraph at once. And to me, it's like, okay, I understand that, but like if I really just sit down and pick up a book of substantial size, it's going to take me a month or two to read that. And a lot of times I'll read it and I'll do an audiobook in the car because it's a lot easier for me to comprehend someone else reading it to me. But comic books, every night I read comic books. I have my iPad. When I messaged Ben and I was like, I'm ordering something online. Can I get the Aggregate too? Because I've read the book. I have the book. I own it. But it was like when I lay in bed, she usually falls asleep before me, and I'm like on my iPad. I can't read that in the dark, like a regular book in the dark. So like the PDF helps a lot because you can scroll through it digitally. And I think a lot of these things, like the Marvel Unlimited subscription, I own a lot of these books, but it allows me to leave my books in the comic book box and pick up the digital version and read through the digital version. Zoom in on different panels if I want to look at something like the artwork from an artist or whatever, or like, oh, I need to go back. Or what would be great is the Aggregate 2, which you're obviously creating right now, to make it so the PDF is interactive on some of these things, so you can click on the thing and it goes to the page. Now that would be
it does.
It does?
It does.
I didn't even try that yet.
Yeah, if you click it depends what you're reading it in, but on a regular computer or something, I'll have to try it on the iPad. I'm pretty sure it works. But
I didn't even try it. I was just guessing that it did.
So in the Aggregate, what we're talking about is it's the world's first split decision comic. So it gives you choices, similar to an old choose your own adventure style, but it had never been done before in comics, at least not done well. And when you get to spots like this, say, all right, do I want to run or do I want to stay? And you can, in the digital version, you can literally click that button and it'll jump you. And that's all just built into Adobe Aggregate.
Yeah.
It's like the simplest program. But I contacted Comixology about the digital version and I was like, hey, I'd love to be on Comixology, but like, here's what I need. Can you guys jump pages? And they were like, no, that sounds cool though. And I was like, yeah, do you want to do it? And they were like, no. I was like, okay. So I'm working on that now, like on my own like split decision app, so you can have all the titles in there. And I think I want to add in some other stuff like the parallax, where you've got your foreground, middle ground, maybe some effects, and maybe even like when you get to big scenes, like when he's, you know, in the ATV thing with the dog in the sidecar running away from the spider cats. Maybe it's actually like a moment of loop animation or something. I think that'd be really cool.
Have you seen, I know like Marvel has done like the Marvel Knights. They had like the videos, the DVDs they came out with, which was basically all they did was like take the panels and like
Oh
talk
yeah, like a
over
motion
them. And
comic.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's like a mixture of the two, like a PDF, a
Yeah.
static PDF, and a motion comic all in one.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that. And then maybe like the big scenes, we do new art or like real, you know, nice animation. Um,
I
yeah,
will tell
I
you
watched
that
the
I am
full.
pumped
Yeah.
because I think it's the first comic book I've ever read in my life that has my name in it.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you, Justin.
really?
I don't think
So that's actually based on a real Justin. If you had hit the Kickstarter, that could have been you, because part of the Kickstarter was you could be in the
that's
book, and that's my buddy Justin Covert.
but it's just
So they
kind of
call him
funny. So page
Covert
35,
most
it's
of the
so
time.
funny.
Yeah,
Like I was reading through it and I was like, oh my God, I'm in this comic book. It's like, you know, I was just talking with my fiance about like, you know, if we were to ever have children, what names would be and so on and so forth. And I was like, I just
yeah,
grew up without no one. I had a couple of people in my 1,500 person high school that
mhm,
had the name Justin, but it wasn't, you know, technically in '86, Justin was the 12th most common name. But in
mm,
Maine, it definitely wasn't the 12th most common name. And so to me, it was, I
no,
didn't know a lot of Justin. So when you read things or see things on TV, there's not very many characters that have been written
yeah.
into movies or TV shows or books that are named Justin. So
I
I read it, I was
honestly,
like,
now that you mention it, yeah, I don't know many. I can't think of many that I grew up with. Maybe like two, but there are two in the club, counting you. Yeah. So you mentioned book two. I wanted to show you this. This is book
oh,
two. So so this is what's taking so long. It's already written, but so this is book one and two, and I like cut it because I sat down to write book one when I did the first Kickstarter, and I always say like I was trying to write Star Wars, and I wrote like A New Hope, Empire, and Jedi, and then I had to like go okay, and so I cut it. So this is all of book two, but you can see like all the tabs. I'm trying to move it so no one can cheat,
let's see
but
what it is. Yeah.
yeah, but like all these guys up top are all things I want to change and edit and add scenes and stuff. So even though the book had been written since 2016 or 2017, when I wrote the first one, I jumped back in after the last Kickstarter, and I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to do this. I should add this. Like, I want an opening, because when you finish book one, there's 4 beginnings, 7 endings, and 20 choices in between. So you end at various spots. So book two needs to open with like, if you ended on this page, start here. If you ended on this page, start here. But I want some clean openings that are like, if you picked up book two for the first time, and I really want to do one where it's like the all the other choices, like it's over the course of like a year maybe. I want one that they've been traveling and like fighting together, the two main characters, for like 2 years. And so like opens and they're in the middle of this like big thing, and they're fucking awesome, like so good at it because they're like a great team. He's got like a shaved head, she has long hair, like whatever. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, can you picture a show starting like that where they're just like a season two, and you're like, what the hell? And so that whole thread will take off from there instead of the other ones, which take off like kind of right when you ended. So I'm kind of writing that from scratch. And another one of the Kickstarter tiers was that you could write a split decision. So there's a handful of people who I kind of need to set up at a point in the book and say, okay, what do you want to do here? And then split it. And then the other guy, okay, what do you want to do with either of those splits? And then just give them I have to give them some parameters so the book's not 900 pages long, but I think it'll be pretty fun. It could be as simple as like, I think you should kiss her, and then he kisses her and he gets like slapped, or she just kills him or something. I don't know, but it
I
could
mean,
be
does it
fun.
make it more difficult to do like writing? It must be more difficult to write a split decision comic book because of it being multiple, like basically a bunch of different comic books in the same, or versions of a comic book in the same book, but also like integrating something like Kickstarter into it and enforcing you to put in things
Yeah,
like create a decision that you're not doing your own. Is it like more difficult to write that
yeah,
way?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the split decision format versus a regular comment format is a little tougher, but it's got its things that are easier. Like one thing that's easier for me is like when I'm sitting down and I like blank slate and it's a writing day. When I'm drawing, I can draw all day and just like be terrible at drawing, and I'll crinkle it up, throw it on the ground, crinkle it up, throw it on the ground. And at the end of the day, at least I have like visual, physical evidence of my struggle and go, okay, well, I tried today. It was a shitty day, but with writing, like you don't just go da 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 da, like you have nothing. Like if you've had a bad day, it's blank, like, or it's just not enough. And so one thing that's good about the split decision thing is I can just like I just riffed there about like 2 years later, he's gonna shave it. Like I can just do that, and then later I can decide if I'm gonna use it. But at least that day I wrote something down. And so with split decision, like it's almost like there's no bad idea. The hard part comes when you have all those and you go, okay, like what should I cut? Or, this book can't be 900 pages. So what doesn't need to be there? What are the best choices? Things like that. And then connecting the dots. The hardest part is if I have like a split and it's a big split in the book, but at some point I want one of the little threads off of that split to come back in. I need to make sure nobody lost an arm or they changed their hair, or like the dog didn't die in that scene and now he's suddenly back. And like, so that stuff is hard to keep track of. But again, the fact that it's a comic, I'm sitting with it for so long. Even on one page, I'll be drawing for like 16 hours and you're not doing anything other than staring at that page and listening to music. And I'm thinking about the book, and I'm like, so by the time I was done Aggregate 1, I had all the threads memorized. It was so weird. I never thought it would happen, but I knew. I was like, okay, this takes place right after this, which was after this, which was after this. It was like very beautiful mind shit, but it was like all in my mind. So it was like, if I forget this, I'm screwed. So that can come in handy sometimes, where you commit it to memory as you're going. But yeah, it's tough. As far as the Kickstarter stuff, the second part of your question, that is definitely harder. The cameo thing is like really, really hard, where people want to be in the book. Because like when you get in and you're, tired, your back hurts, it's hot, whatever, you just want to like play The Last of Us for 24 hours. Like you can't. You go, okay, well, I'm just going to try my best to like draw something great today, like, and get this page done. And you don't want to go on to Kickstarter, go onto your backer report, look for who backed as main character, find their photos, draw them into the comic. And so like, I love that support. Obviously the book wouldn't have happened without those big tier rewards, but that's like something that, is a struggle against, just brain dead creativity. You know what I mean? And so I'll have to get that out of the way. So with Drawing Blood 2, I'm doing it a little differently than I did with Drawing Blood 1, where I'm going to do all the cameos. I'm doing all my roughs first. Probably can't see it, but over on that wall, that's issues 5 and 6 hanging up on the wall. So I'm going to do all those roughs first, and then I'm going to jump in and like kind of replace random people that I drew in backgrounds and things with cameos, and that might help. The main character stuff was really tough. So when I did Aggregate 1, I had a lot of main character rewards because it was big. It wasn't as big as it should have been, but I think they were like $600 or something to be in the book. And people loved it. Like you just loved seeing your name, for example. Like, so if you find a good deal to like literally be in the book, and that Justin Covert character is a big character. I hadn't even written the book yet when I launched that Kickstarter. I had the synopsis, told people what I wanted to do, and I had 3 pages done. So when I had like a pile of, because I just kept saying, okay, yeah, like let's get this thing full color, let's get it funded. I was like, oh man, how am I going to fit all these people in? And so I had a little bit of an advantage at that point where I knew, the thing was funded and I had all these people. And of course I hadn't written it yet, but I had to write the story around those people. And so like, that guy probably would have died, but now I feel bad killing him off. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, how do I just not let this one backer last forever and become an awesome character and then just kill another one off? And then like, oh, this guy's a gun nut, or like, should I make him the weapons expert? Like that was a positive. I could riff off of like what he actually did in real life. This person's a nurse. She could be the medic or whatever. And like, that was a lot of fun. The Covert guy was in the military, so I made him like the head of the rebel group there. So that part of it was fun, but it was also a challenge. It was definitely a challenge.
It's you're writing your own. This is like Ben here owns Split Decision Comics, so it's not you're writing your own thing, but like it almost like you have a director or someone telling you, like not the Kickstarter company, because Kickstarter is just a platform, but like the people who backed your Kickstarter are the one basically telling you, we need to put this character in the book because someone paid for that. So there's like not in a bad way, because you chose the levels, the tiers that you could do it. So like it was your decision, but in the same sense, it's almost like, hey, you need to put Justin in this book. some
How
corporate
are you going
person.
to do it?
Exactly. And so
Or
that's
like
pretty crazy to think about.
people with glasses was a hurdle because I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a post-apocalyptic like Mad Max type. Like this is supposed to be 1,000 years in the future. It's like, are they finding their prescription? Like, are they making you? It's like, no, they would die. Like you can't see the survival of the fittest. And so like I just told those people, I was like, hey, it might not look exactly like you unless you want to die because I'm gonna take away your glasses. Like, is that cool? And they're like, yeah. And then one guy, and he'll know who he is, and you'll know who he is if you've read the book, but he paid to have his son in the book. And so it was like both of them. And that was an awesome, like, development because then I got to write this, like, father-son thing. But again, it changed the entire story just because of his $600. Like, so that's also like what I think is great about Kickstarter. And that's what I said on the second one. And that's why I say on Drawing Blood, I'm like, this is your chance to, you're not just supporting me or it's not a charity. Like you're like kind of molding what this project will be. And I thought that was really, really cool. I would love to be, I do love being a part of that for other books, you know?
So just in case anybody who's listening or watching doesn't know, Drawing Blood is a comic book that I mentioned at the open, but it's a book that Ben illustrated with, with, I guess, along with Kevin Eastman, who's the co-creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It came out, last year? Is that what it was, last year?
I'm not sure. Time is
19?
It
must have been 2019, right? Summer of
it's probably
summer of
in the book.
2019.
Hold on. I think it's in the book.
I think it was summer of 2019.
It was 2018.
2018. Okay, so that's a book, and if you want it, you can get it on Kevin Eastman's website. I did order his package. It comes with all of your covers, and it comes with all of his variant covers.
Okay, cool.
It also came with the Ragdolls book.
So Ragdolls is essentially the book inside the book, but
yes. So the cool thing about
this
confused.
This doesn't exist inside the book, but it's the book the guy creates in the book.
Yes. So Paul Bookman is a comic book artist, a struggling comic book artist now at this point because of some things that go on. So I want people to read it, but it's a great book. And Kevin Eastman obviously is a historical person for people who live in New England and or Maine knows he created one of the most iconic comic book characters in history with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles along with his partner Laird. But how did you get connected? I guess I don't want to do interview-based questions, but I really would like it. I think some people would like to know how someone who, you're 34, right? I mean, you're in your 30s. 34,
I think I'm 34. I said 33 the other day. 86. So
86. So yeah. So 34. We're both 34, but like you're 34, and you had not only have met someone like Kevin Eastman, and not only have you been able
he texts me more than anyone else on earth, which I love. It's great.
Like not only think about it, like a lot of if you think like you talked about sending your letter into Marvel. You sent your letter into Marvel at 11 years old, not just to become a comic book artist, but because of the people that also worked for Marvel. Like, you wanted to be able to work alongside the people who worked at, the Kirbys, the Lees.
Jim Lee.
Yes. So those places, like those are the people you want to work alongside. Now you get to work alongside this guy who created this, when you were on the Comic-Con, the Bangor Comic-Con show, Jay Cochran had mentioned how much his kids love watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on TV. And now you get to actually sit there and draw those things that we grew up watching. I mean, how does that happen? Like,
oh, it's amazing. It's been a really great few years. I was going to say couple of years, but then I just checked the date on that book and I was like, oh, wow, time is going by faster these days. So when I decided one day I wanted to do Ninja Turtles, IDW is a comic company that holds the rights to the licensed Ninja Turtle comics, and they've been doing a kick-ass job for a long time now. They're, I think, at 105 now, maybe further. Maybe
105, I think, just came out, or is coming out next week, or came out last week.
So it's the longest running Turtle comic book series ever, with, especially beats out the original Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird books as far as length. So anyway, I made a decision. I wanted to draw Turtles. It actually came about like a sidebar, which I do a lot of. Sorry, but I wanted to get my first tattoo. This guy here, or this girl here, and my tattoo artist was like, "You can draw, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to draw some Ninja Turtles?" Like, I love Ninja Turtles. Like, obsessed with Ninja Turtles, but I never really drew them. I drew them badly, like every now and then for fun. But I was like, okay, and I drew this big like subway piece, which you can see on my website because it's still one of my favorite pieces, where they're all on the subway car, and like I think Mikey's like snapping the foot soldier's neck and all this stuff. And I traded that for
Is that
got
it?
over there. Yeah, that's the van one. That one's
Oh.
like that one's like a nod to it. So I'm
I,
already
I,
like
I
referencing my own shit.
okay, so that's right there
So,
that's saving the spot on the wall for
oh,
an
okay.
actual commission, like a piece from Ben Bishop. I
Oh,
got it from
cool.
you, and what was in there was something that I had created, but it was like I did it on Photoshop. It was like a flat 2-dimensional like Captain America just shield, but the other
Mm-hmm.
ones that were next to were all like Billy. I have a piece of Billy Anderson artwork and all that stuff on next to it, so it was like the space
Yeah,
needs to be, it needs to be a piece of black and white artwork. And so I got that in the
eventually.
mail, and I was like, that's gonna go up there.
Yeah, I like
But
that.
back to what
I
you were
like
saying.
that thought. Yeah, so I did that piece for him in trade for the tattoo, and then I colored it just because it was done and I really liked it. And then I made prints of it, and I was doing lots of conventions every year. And so I just started making like kind of fake Ninja Turtle covers. And then I was like, well, if I do these, not only will I get better at finding my turtles and drawing the turtles, but I can start sending them as samples to IDW and be like, hey, you should let me do a cover. You should let me do a cover. And so I did that for like 3 years. I was sending them emails like, hey, let me do a cover. And Bobby, the editor, is an awesome guy, but his emails are super short. And so you always think he hates you. He's like, looks great. Okay. Like, because he's busy as heck. And so I was like, oh man, this is never going to work out for me, yada, yada, yada. And I think so 3 years later, I think I finally got my first one in 2014. It's issue 55. They're jumping out of a manhole. So I got that one, and then I did a couple store exclusives for this awesome shop in Manchester, Double Midnight Comics. So I did like 3 or 4, and it was Rhode Island Comic Con. I can't remember the year, but it's after I had done like 3 or 4 covers, and Kevin was there, and he was on a panel with some other turtle people like Steve Levine, who I'm actually very good friends with. He lives in Wells, Maine. Um, and apparently somebody came to my table later and was like, hey, Kevin mentioned you on the panel. I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, he said there's lots of great turtle artists here, and he couldn't really think of anyone, but he named you because he knew you were here. And then he said that he hates you because you draw turtles better than him. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, first of all, that's not true. Second of all, that's awesome. And so then later that night, Steve was like, hey, you want to go hang out with Kevin at PF Chang's? And I was like, hell yeah. Because Steve and Kevin were like best friends. I guess
Mhm.
Michelangelo is based on Steve Levine.
Oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
they were really excited to get together again because it had been a while. And Steve and his wife Dee were nice enough to invite me. And so that's when I first like met Kevin, and we were drawing turtles for the waitresses and stuff on like receipts, and it was a lot of fun. Took some pictures, and I was like, oh yeah. Slept in my car. Like I was supposed to. This is like story Jill, my wife, told me never to tell anyone, but I love it because it has to do with my whole introduction to Kevin. But I had 2 other places I was going to crash that night, and like as the night went on, those options faded because those people went to bed. And so my final option, the guy was like, dude, it's now or never, I'm leaving. And I was like, I'll be all right. And I slept in my car because I like lost it. So I slept in my car in the parking garage in Rhode Island at the mall. It was amazing. But Jill was like, you shouldn't tell anyone that ever again. And so here I am on a podcast. But after that, I felt like I was comfortable enough with Kevin I shot him a copy of the Aggregate PDF. It was about to come out, and I shot a copy to Peter Laird, and I had talked to Peter Laird. I'd done a couple signings with Peter Laird actually because he was very close. He still is very close with Steve Levine, and Steve had a store, and we did some signings, and so I sent them both a copy of the book, hoping to get a quote for the back. And Pete got back to me right away, and pretty much exactly what I would expect from somebody like as so, meticulous as Pete. He gave me like some grammatical feedback on the PDF. He's like, you can do what you want, but that's spelled this way. This is supposed to say that, like, and I was like, okay, I appreciate it. But he gave me an awesome quote for the back. And Kevin never did. And I was like, well, all right, well, I got to go to print. So I went to print. A few months go by, and I'm at North Carolina Comic Con, and this is when I set a new goal. I have this other stupid saying along with Just Make Comics, which is set goals, get goals. And I just go, okay, here's what I'm going to do this year, or however long it takes, which is turtles. My new goal was to get on Savage Dragon with Eric Larson. And so I was kind of like buzzing around Larson all weekend at this convention in North Carolina. And he was kind of like busy and not really caring. Flash forward, I ended up getting some Savage Dragon stuff. But that night, I was a little bummed out. I was like, oh, he doesn't care, I'm not going to get it. and we're having drinks at the bar, at the mixer, like I said. And I got this buzz, and I looked, and it was an email from Kevin and said, hey Ben, Kevin Eastman here. He's like, just read the Aggregate. It's fucking awesome. He's like, do you want to do a book for me? And I was like, and I'm just sitting with friends who are going on with their fucking conversations, and I'm like, hey, so look at what and they're like, go fucking call him, because he gave me his number.
Yeah.
So I went outside, I called him, and I was just pacing around, Charlotte, North Carolina. And we talked about what drawing blood would be, and because I said yes, and he said, well, let me send you some stuff before you say yes. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm gonna say yes no matter what it is.
Unless this is some sort of like weird like Nazi thing or something like that, you're likely I'm gonna say yes.
Nazi stuff, yeah. And so he said, okay, the story is drawing blood, and the way I kind of quick pitch it at comic book conventions and stuff is we say it's the fictional true story, which doesn't make any sense, but you kind of get that. It's the fictional true story of how the Ninja Turtles were created and what happened after. But instead of Kevin Eastman, it's this guy Shane Bookman. And instead of creating the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he creates the radically rearranged Ronin Ragdolls, who are samurai cats named after famous anime directors Miyazaki, Tezuka, and Otomo, instead of Renaissance painters.
And the cover is, I mean, if anybody knows the original TMNT, that's how like it said, Peter Laird in a, Kevin Eastman across the top, and it said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
So it's been, so that's kind of how that came together. Over the next couple days and weeks, we would get on the phone, and I told him, what I needed for payment. He was also really, he told me more about the story, of course, and it's co-written by David Avalone, who's a brilliant writer, who's done Zorro, Elvira, Betty Page has been one of his big books. And he's just got, like, you've read some of it, I think, at least, right? Like, his humor is so good.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. I read
Blood.
Drawing Blood. Yeah.
Yeah, like I read the scripts, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is good. Like, it'd be great. I mean, it would suck if it was terrible. Like, so when I read them and I'm like, oh, that's actually really funny. And I do a lot with emotion. Like, I really like to get like in the characters, face and stuff. Like, my favorite shows are Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, and even The Last of Us as a game. Like, it's so much quiet moments and like people's like what they're going through. And so I try and like really get in on that. And it's not just the word balloons and stuff. So it was a really good fit. We've been doing it. We're doing volume 2 right now. We raised $105,000 on volume 1 on Kickstarter, and I think volume 2 was like 120. I think maybe 120. And we've also got Troy Little is doing all the cats, and so the book has like 3 sections where it's like I do the main story.
Yep.
Kevin does these awesome flashbacks on the classic duo shade paper that was used in the original Turtle comics. They don't make it anymore. And then Troy will do the hallucinations, which are like when the cats basically torment Shane for selling them and abandoning them. And Shane hasn't picked up a pencil in years. And instead, he's working on a Broadway musical of the
Broadway
famous,
musical, yeah.
Yeah, he's working on a Broadway musical of the famous silent movie Metropolis. So it's like, it's destined to be like Turn Off the Dark, Spider-Man, disaster. There's even like a fake Michael Bay in the book. There's a fake U2 in the book. Like, so it's kind of half true. David's even sprinkled it with experiences they've had, funny stories from Comic-Con, tales behind the con kind of thing. But at the same time, if you know the Turtles and you know the history, you'll see like those moments, and you might even get a little bit more insight into what was going on. I know I do. Like when Shane is arguing with his brother or something, I'm just like I don't know what's 100% or not of how things went with the Turtles, but you're like left to ponder and kind of make it out for yourself. And then at the same time, you'll see, things that those characters say that you're like, oh man, that they really were like the best of friends. Like, and it's sweet, I like that.
It's pretty funny too if anybody reads Drawing Blood. It's like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen now I'm thinking about, I've lost my train of thought, but the idea that it's not really based on him, but it's like, on Seinfeld, Jay Peterman, how Kramer sells his stories to Jay Peterman to tell the Peterman story, and some of them are real and some of them are not, and he's like, sprinkle things in here. It's almost like not on purpose, not to lie to people, but it's cool that Kevin Eastman can tell this story with your help for the art, is to tell the story of what the story is about what happened, with the turtles and things like that, but
Yeah.
not just do a documentary or just a real book
Yeah.
about the story. It's like,
If it was a documentary or if it was 100% true, you're limited by like, do I really want to start shit with this person? Do I really want to like dox them publicly? Like if it's a negative thing, or if it's
yes.
a positive thing, like, oh, is that, something I should be sharing or something? But at the same time, you get the opportunity to make it more fantastical and comic booky. Like we have Lithuanian gangsters and car chases and gunfights and stuff. Like he's holding
Well, that didn't
a
really
gun on the
happen.
cover. No, yeah, I mean, maybe there was some wild stuff. I've heard crazy stories of him and Simon Beasley and stuff, and I think we're gonna adapt some of that into it. Because his best friend in the book says Simon Beasley is Nigel Beastly, and it's just awesome. Like it's a
Yeah,
great fun book. So
it's really good. And the cool thing too is, I bet you're writing all this, but you have to write all 4 of those issues, or illustrate all 4 of those
drawing,
issues,
yeah.
all at once, basically, right? And then you're writing.
Mhm.
Is it gonna be issue 5, 6, 7, and 8? Is that how it works? Is volume 2 is
Yeah.
gonna continue?
So we talked about options because I want every comic book store to survive and do well, but I think the fact of the matter is like the process for ordering comics is just like so asinine. Like I'm gonna leave my home, walk into the store, ask them to order this book that comes out in 3 months, hope they remember to do it. When they do it, I'm gonna come back in, get that book, go home and read. It's like, okay, like why are you making everybody work so hard? Like every comic store needs a website. Go, here's the diamond code. Tell us what you want. Email it in. We'll even ship it to you. Like it's not that hard. And especially with the virus and everything going on now, I'm hoping a lot of stores are going, oh, well, it's time to, get on board with the future. Like, but that's besides the point. So when we did volume 1, the idea was to do volume 1 was for this Kickstarter exclusive trade, which is what this is. And there's only ever been this cover, this exact trade has only ever been printed, that minimum printing that we did for the Kickstarter. So anything that you see extra is like overprint
Mm-hmm.
that we're selling personally at our tables and stuff. And so we went and we wanted to do that. And then we were like, okay, then we'll break it up into issues. And so Kevin is a very old school floppy comic guy. He loves variant covers. He believes in the comic shops, and I mean, so do we all. But like, they got to help themselves too sometimes. The ones that can, and so we really wanted to do that as well. Obviously, the sales, are great with issue ones, and then kind of fall off. And so they were all great. Issue 1 was nuts. I think we sold 13,000 copies of issue 1 in stores, and that was after the Kickstarter and stuff. So we were psyched about that. But then when it came time for book 2, we were like, okay, let's do the same plan. We'll focus on, a volume of it. And it's yet to be decided if we're going to do issues and go to stores. What we'll do is, there's the Kickstarter version that all the Kickstarter people will get. And then no matter what, if we're not going to go to issue, we'll do another version of a trade that the general public can get, because we don't want to just like never print it again, But yeah, so we're deep at work on that. Like everything, like Amazon, it's late. But it just takes forever, and everything is a ripple effect, and like we're all dealing with dread and depression and all this stuff. And it's hot. Trying to draw in the heat.
So we talked about earlier
So,
that Ben got a new
yeah.
air conditioner, comes in a little while, but
Yeah,
it's cooled
hopefully.
down. The question I would come to, like, obviously maybe this is a question for Kevin, like at some point you run out of sprinkling in truth, because at some point you end up when a comic book becomes a TV show, your Walking Dead's, for an example, is so, they go along, and now at some point, when Robert Kirkman says, "Screw it, I'm done. 193 is the last issue," but the TV show is still going on. At some point, it's not going to match up. So at some point, or like your Orange Is the New Black. At some point, they stop that TV show telling the truthful story, or a fictionized version of the truthful story.
Yeah.
That at some point, Kevin Eastman is not going to have those truthful things to sprinkle into it. Is one of those things. Is he looking? I don't know. Obviously, maybe you're not be able to say, but is he looking that this may be a continuous thing? That maybe there's a Kickstarter next year or 2 years from now to do this continuing?
So that's another thing that's kind of up in the air. And just on the fact of a Kickstarter or not. Like, so for book 1, he saw what I did with the Aggregate on Kickstarter, and I was a big proponent of like, let's just do it ourselves. Let's do it ourselves. So it was Kevin Eastman's return to self-publishing, which was like also like the greatest headline, because it's like him and Pete you can't find a better success story for self-publishing. Ninja Turtles is self-published. The Ninja Turtle movie is like one of the highest grossing independent films of all time. It's an independent movie. No one wanted to make it. It's crazy. And like,
it's one of the greatest,
it just,
honestly, no matter what, the
so
superheroes,
good.
nothing or whatever. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. And it's nice. It's short. It's dark. It's awesome. The freaking Henson is off the charts. Like, so to do that with the books, I was a big proponent of like, let's just Kickstarter it and then we'll decide what we do with it. We can always put it to shops later, yada, yada, yada. And then we did that for book 2. And that was another thing that, you know, me and Troy Little were pushing for a lot because he's done it as well. And we had such good success with the first one. And then it was like, holy crap, this is a lot of work. Like Kickstarter is a lot of work too. And so we had this idea of like, okay, maybe with Drawing Blood 2, we'll just, you know, keep going without Kickstarter because we've made enough off the first one. And we have enough in the Drawing Blood account to, you know, produce at least the book, we think. We'll see how we are once it's done after all this stuff. But so that might be something we do. We might jump right into 3. I know I personally need to, you know, hit the ground running harder on even Aggregate. It's hard to draw 2 books at the same time, so I'll cut my weeks sometimes. So I might ask for a little bit of a break between Drawing Blood 2 and 3, but I don't think there will ever come a day where Kevin has run out of ideas for me to draw. I think it's like, you can only draw so fast, you know, like best day, you're doing a page and a half a day. Like more likely it's just shy of a page or a page. So you think about a 200-page book and it's like, okay, well, best case scenario, that's 200 days. Like,
Yeah.
and that
Well,
doesn't
it's like,
count
yeah, if you think
coloring,
about it,
lettering, printing.
taking some time off or doing other projects, or, you know, you do a shipping day, which is going to take all your time up in that day.
Yeah.
And so you're talking, that's a year at least right there.
Yeah.
I mean, all the extra days.
Yeah.
And
people hate to see that on Kickstarter. Like with the Aggregate 2, I put my estimated, you know, delivery date, and it was 2 years later. It's like March 2021. People were like, "Was that a typo?" And I was like, "No, I mean that's probably generous because this thing's gonna take forever." And with a book like the Aggregate and Drawing Blood, these are like, I'm at a point in my, you know, life and career where I'm not done showing off. Like I want to get better. I want it to be my best work. So I'm not going to just go, oh, we got to get it done. Those people are waiting. Like I care about that, of course. But at the same time, like, what's the point of giving them a crappy book? So I want every page to be at least the best I can do right now. Like later on in life, I might, you know, mess around with looser styles or whatever, or less detail might be cool. But right now, I want to do what I believe is like the best way I can do it. And it takes a while. It doesn't take longer than anyone else, but just how long it takes.
I mean,
I think
people don't want to go out as much either. So the idea of doing a 300-page book that you can buy one edition of, you know, it's not, you know, especially something new. You know, if I was going out there and they had the option of, you know, I read, you know, number of comic books, but if like, you know, the new Iron Man or whatever came out and it was only in trade back, I might be like, maybe not. I kind of like the idea of holding it like I'm Kevin Eastman, the floppy version of it or whatever. But something that like you, and this is how you created your first, you know, obviously Nathan the Caveman, but your first split decision comic book came out. This is the style it came out in. Then obviously this is, even if you had decided at one point to do the Aggregate one again, and that like the first book is the beginning part, the second book is like 2A, 2B, so, you know, like all the decisions that you make are individual copies, and that would be badass.
That's what I wanted to do. Yeah.
But like, this is how it came out the first time, so I know what to do, what to expect. So if you were to come out with Aggregate 2 and it came out in any different format than this, this is what I expected to come out in. So
no, I want it to be like that, and it's a product of necessity too, because I was thinking like a lot of shops and publishers, like before I decided like I'm totally happy split decision for the rest of my life, like as far as these books go, I don't need Oni, IDW, Image. Like I would take Image because they have huge umbrella and I get all these new eyeballs and stuff. But if they don't want it, I'd never see it as a failure. It's like, I'm good, because they all want single issues. They're easier to sell at comic stores, and they're like, can you do the Aggregate? I think Dark Horse asked me, can you break this into single issues? We'd love it. And I was like, no, you can't, because of the splits. Like how many different ways can you go in a 22-page comic? And so I always say, like, split decision, like the difference is big differences. Like I want you'd be able to go all the way there and then to the front, and it was fun. And the choose your own adventure books, putting your fingers in the page, and you could do it. Like this comes with 4 bookmarks.
No, they
um,
died.
yeah. I didn't see it. I'm going back. And so you need it to be a big physical copy. But what you said about the various books, that's actually what I want. So if you were to draw like all the choices like on a whiteboard or something, it would look like a tree, right? I want the books to look like that eventually. You could put them all on the floor and go book 1, and then book 2 is 2 books, and book 3 is 3, and it keeps going like that. And it's like, grab the green cover with the cat on it, or the green cover with the robot on it, and the book would literally tell you where to go. So you also have a version of book 1 before it tells you exactly where to go in book 2, because on the third printing of book 1, I'm guessing I'll be right in line to know the page numbers in book 2. And so all those will be very different than the one you're holding now, because instead of saying to be continued, it'll say turn to page 300 in book 2 or something. It'll be so cool to just be like, okay, grab that off your shelf and keep going. And to your point about people stuck at home and wanting something to read, that's also why I love this, because you can read that book 100 different ways is the most that someone's clocked it. I don't know how to do math, so I don't know if they're lying. I don't know if it's more. I don't know if it's less, but they've done all the different variations, and they told me they read it 100 different ways. And so it's pretty cool.
Is it? You think with after book 2, you might do a book 1 and 2 together? That'd be kind of cool if you did like a humongous book.
Yeah, I had thought about that. Usually it would be 3 books, like a big trilogy. And every time I think about it, I'm like, I can't do book 3 for 10 years. And so yeah, I don't want it to look like I'm milking everyone, but I might put one together that's like books 1 and 2. And then when 3 is done, I'll do books 1, 2, and 3. And might as well keep doing that until you've got a book that's like this thick and it's just absurd to open.
It's in a 3-ring binder. It's not actually
Yeah. It's got gold trim on the sides and a big red ribbon, and not a Bible, but yeah.
Well, some people's Bible,
I don't know.
Right? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some people read it more than the Bible.
We might need a post-apocalyptic Bible pretty soon.
It's kind of cool to listen to your stories on that too, because I recently just decided that my fiance and I are going to try to writing our own graphic novel, and we are going to take our time on it. We have a lot of other crap going on, and obviously work and things like that. But our goal is to potentially take what we're going through right now and make it 10 times, 100 times worse than we're going through right now. A post-apocalyptic, but shit really hit the fan. Governments collapsed and people are trying to survive.
By the time you've written 100 pages, it will all come true. I'm telling you.
And then I'll sell it as a prophecy, man. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. You'll be like the new
Nostradamus.
No. Yeah, I was gonna name the guy from that suicide cult, but I won't go there. No, I'm just kidding.
But the idea that there is, I am a big Walking Dead fan. I'll admit that, and the idea of the Walking Dead version, but without the zombies kind of thing, because your walkers and your zombies make it not believable. Whereas this is believable, especially what we all went through right now. We're all going through. It's believable that this could have been 100 times worse than it is now. In that, we're not I don't have power right now because the electric people who work at the electric company all died, and just these things that could be so much cool in it. But I mentioned about how I've seen my name Justin in this comic book that you wrote. That I want to put it in my own comic book, but I also don't, because I don't want my name to be my own comic book. So it's that mixture of there's no Bens in this comic book, right?
That's true. Yeah, it's weird to write your own name because you're it's overdone, but it's not. You just overdo it yourself. Ben is kind of overdone, but it's also not really cool, heroic name. I think Justin's cooler.
Yeah, you got But yeah, so the stuff that you've done and been able to be your own boss in a sense, you were able to we have this aspect that you have your Kickstarter, backers that you have to listen to in a sense, you do take your time making it the right product the first time. So the guy you just mentioned, people pay $600 to be in this book. Think how many things you could spend $600 on that they decided to choose you, so that you would be the one that you have to make them right. You have to do it right for those people.
That's why I don't want to waste it.
So there's this aspect of being able to do something that you're passionate about and love, but also have input from all these different people. I mean, you probably indirectly take input from your Bish kids and the people you see at cons and all that stuff too. So it's pretty cool that you're able to do your own thing. But one boss you do have is Chris Morley.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. Yeah, he's the owner of Mason's Brewing. Yeah.
and so like I know that we no longer are, and I won't get into any details. I don't know the story, but we no longer are distributed by the same distributor anymore. However,
Oh, okay.
I do know Masons. I've been to Masons. My first time actually sitting down and having dinner with my fiance was on the patio at Masons and Brewer. So
Oh,
there is a small little connection
brought you
there.
together. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to go there
exactly.
every anniversary. Your bones.
Sweet potato fries. And she tells me right now she drank way too many
Oh,
rum and cokes that
oh,
night. But I was like, well, maybe that's what made you fall for me. I don't know. Maybe you were too
yeah.
drunk to actually know.
That's 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 your drink. That's got to be at your wedding, rum and coke. I mean, I'm sure it's
But
at every wedding. Yeah.
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
We're having I designed a beer label for our wedding. Actually, we're having a beer at our
Oh
wedding.
no.
It's a beer we make right now. We were gonna make
Mhm,
original. We were gonna make an actual beer based on me. Like I was gonna help
mhm,
with the recipe and do all this stuff. It's just with all the times we went through the past 3 months, it was a lot of like making beer over again and putting in cans versus kegs and all. It was a lot of more
yeah.
logistics that went into it. So what we did, we were making this beer called, it was ATP, which stands for Annual Training Plan. It's
Mhm,
150 calorie, low ABV IPA. That was made, we make it as a regular beer, but we ended up
mhm.
changing it. So my last name Soderberg means South Mountain.
Oh
And so
wow.
I changed the name of the beer for 4 cases of beer to be South Mountain IPA, and I designed it
That's
after our
super
wedding
cool, man.
invitation. So we'll have that at our wedding. It's our own beer. It
That's
has like
awesome.
our wedding date on it and all that stuff. But
That's
so
super cool.
Ben here also is the illustrator for. Do you do like I would say about 90% of their cans, right? I'm saying like
I
because a
do all
couple
of
of the
them.
ones. Did you do the ones, even the ones like the cream ale, the ones that don't have anything on
Yeah.
it, or do you? Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So originally, Chris had some cans, and they were all kind of like a variation on a color. Like it would be like a green can, and the hop would be the hop logo.
hmm
This is another one that I just did, Orion. But the hop logo on his old cans would kind of change based on the can, and the color theme would change. And that's something he was looking to, do differently. But my first instinct, and I think I talked about this, we are just on the 207 main thing. I talked about it on there, but like because I'm a comic guy and a freaking toy collect, I take pictures of this wall and people think I'm at the toy store, but it's like I have the pegboard here. Like so I'm super collector of all things and I understand like collector mentality and how I can like walk into a Walmart and if I'm like, if I don't buy this now, someone else is gonna get it and I'm never gonna find it. I'm gonna have this whole my collection. So it was like my idea that I pitched to him kind of just over drinks the very first night we met. I was like, you should have cans that say like this is 2 out of 4. And people will go, where the hell is one? Like where's 3? Where's 4? And so they know like gotta collect them all. And so that also, I can't really get excited about stuff as much until I put a character to it. So like a lot of the beers we do are based on characters that we've created together, like Wrecker, Hipster Apocalypse is a character, Orion. Um, and usually it'll start with a name and then I'll find a way to make it a character and Chris is like, that's sick. Like, but those other cans you're talking about, I've got some over here, are more basic, just in the fact that they're the logo because he still had to do like a stout or a cream or something, but we weren't going to do like Stout Man or like anything like that
he's
unless we
very
came up with a
stout.
weird name. Yeah. So like these are the more basic cans, but they're always in different colors. So we'll have like a base color and then a hop color. And that's pretty much as far as those ones get. But I kind of like those ones myself too. This was the first one we did, hipster
And you can watch
apocalypse.
that. I mean, he
And
did. Ben was on 207 Main a little while ago. I watched that clip
yeah,
about how it became like how they ended up getting Stephen King rules on the T-shirt and all
yeah,
that stuff. Was pretty
yeah.
cool.
I was like, Coast City Comics sells this shirt called that says Stephen King rules. I think it's like so Maine. I love it. I think it was in the 80s. Was it in Goonies or something? It was in the 80s movie. I've seen it before. They also do another shirt that says Dean Koontz is okay, I guess. I love it. And, but I was like, we got to put that on. And he was like, I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. And instead of like going through his lawyer and channels, he just messaged Stephen King's page on Facebook, and somebody wrote back and was like, we don't see any problem with it. So this is double hipster, or it's a double IPA version of the hipster. So we put in this chick, and her
Mhm.
shirt is really funny. It says, well, I'm planning on moving to London to open my own gluten-free bakery, but at the moment I'm just kind of laying low and working on my novel. Just like so hipster. I love it. But anyway, yeah, so that came together. I sold him on the idea of collectability, do a lot of character cans. And he's told me it's doing really well and people are really digging it and I'm liking it. It's a good relationship the way we've worked it out. It's like it's dependable. Been doing it for like almost 3 years now.
Yep. And the cool thing is like with us, with Orono Brewing Company and relations, you decide to make a beer. I mean, I have Don't Feed the Animals here. We did with the zoo, Portland Zoo in Portland, Maine, the bar in Portland, Maine, which we did. This is the first 4-pack that we've done. That's 4 different can labels.
Oh, that's so cool.
So there's this one. There's like a zebra and a cheetah and I forget what the other one is.
That's
but
awesome. I've wanted
and then
to
I
do
used
that.
the font that's the Jurassic Park font.
Jurassic Park, yeah.
So, but the idea that our hop is in the same spot in every can, like it's the same. The OBC hop is right there. The design goes across there. The India Pale Ale's here. Everything's the same, so we can recognize that it's our can. The same thing with being the same illustrator on all your cans. If you go into a Damon's in Bangor or like a beer cellar in Portland or in Gorham, you walk in there and you're like, okay, I know this is a Mason's can because I can tell with the artwork is got probably cool colors on it. Because I mean, you use a lot of like popping colors with hipster pop-ups and Ryan.
That was one of Chris's biggest inputs. Like before I drew a line, he's like, "What about like neon?" I'm like, "Well, you can't print neon." I was like, "But I'll do my best." and so we're just always going extreme with them. You guys are extreme. The tiger style caught my eye. Obviously, it reminded me of GI Joe, and I wanted it bad. And then I actually like really liked it.
So then I sent some in the mail illegally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well. But yeah,
so it's pretty cool to see that little bit, like the difference in like there's some people who are just all over the board, like they're just people who like they don't know where their avenue is, and if you walk in there and you see their cans next to each other on the shelf, you might think they're 2 different breweries. You may not think that they're the exact same company, and it's like having you beyond that. And part of that, me saying that, is I'm just telling Chris right now, like he can't not have you as the artist anymore. Sorry, because if you don't, if you have someone else as the artist, then you're gonna screw up all this like continuity he has going on.
I'm gonna clip out that part and email it to him.
But the cool thing would be is
we're really great friends. Like I don't think he has any interest in kicking me out as long as I don't turn into a dink. But I am very busy lately, so I'm kind of a dink.
But the idea that you also I would love the old Coed and Cambria version of it where there's a comic book involved in it. Would be kind of cool to like create a comic book that's a Mason's comic book that's all these characters you've created over the time of 3 years. That
we've been wanting to do that for a long time. It's just time. It's crazy. I think if I could hire somebody to do it who could just use me as like, oh, these are his designs, and they're doing kind of the grunt work of the panel to panel, it could really work. But such a control freak about everything, man. Like I want to do it,
Well, I had the same thing because one of the guys, like, the tubular can wasn't me. It was a teamwork effort between another one of our guys who designed cans. I mean, with someone else, they designed the cans together. And so to me, it's like after a little while, I got so overwhelmed with other stuff to do at OBC. There was times where it's like in the past, I worked for OBC for almost 4 years. In the past, 2.5 years, we've been doing cans. We've been like, oh, man, hey, Andy, can you do this can? I just don't have time. I have all this other shit going on, so on and so forth. And then I see him do it, and he sends us the label, and I'm like, oh, that's good. It's great. He's a great designer. But then I'm like, but it wasn't me. It's not my little touch on it, or I would have chosen a different font or whatever. And we do have say in it because I do have control over that. But like, there's times where I'm just like, now I'm like, no, guys, talk to me first. I'll do the can. If I don't have time for it, I'll make time for it. I have a lead bartender that can do some stuff for me that my responsibility is. I'll give that stuff to someone else and I'll design the can. Let me do this.
I was going to say that is a great can. So he did a great job too. Did you do the new version that's black?
Oh, yes, that's me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one too. And it just so happens like I'm getting hit with all these sponsored ads for like black neon gecko pants. You remember like those old crazy patterned pants like in the 90s? So you guys are hitting it like right when everyone's seeing all that, So.
And I just bought an iPad Pro back a couple months ago, or a bit like during this COVID situation. I bought an iPad Pro, so I've been able to just like sketch a little bit more now. So I do a lot of my stuff in Photoshop and in Illustrator, but just like all on the computer, no illustrations, nothing. It's all just graphic design. But hopefully I have a new van life can that's me of a sketch of a VW bus on it to do like the van life idea that I did a sketch on the iPad. So this is my first, hopefully it gets released, a digital illustration of a can, which is what you do. I'm guessing you do a lot of paperwork like on paper and then do it digitally.
My finals, I do it the other way. So, actually I do kind of back and forth. So all my roughs for the past like 6 or so years have been digital. Because I used to do it on paper, and then it would be like, oh, that face is amazing. I just wish it was this much bigger. And like now, I can just, pull it up. And so I still drew that face, but I was able to, rather than draw it again, do something like that. Or like I'll get an arm on somebody and be like, I want to tilt his arm just that much, and I don't have to redraw it. I can just, and so things like that. And then I print them out and I do the finals on paper, because not only do I like to have an original piece later, for our retirement and whatnot, but the main reason is I've not found any like digital experience of like digging my mechanical pencil into a piece of paper, and like right now, it's part of the reason why I need AC is because the paper is behaving differently. Like it's crazy that I can pick up on it, but like I have all these stupid sayings I realize every time I do a podcast, but I called it like as a joke to my buddy Dylan, like following the river or something. So like when I do my first lines with the pencil in the paper, it creates a channel, like a microscopic channel dig in the thing, like a river. And then when I go back to do line weight, and for those who don't know, if you were drawing this fist would have like a thick line on it to show you that it's closer. We're not made with lines, but that's how they do it in comic books. So then I would go back over those lines for my second pass of like what's forward, what's back. This stuff back here, I wouldn't touch ever again. Me, I'd probably do one more time. The fist, I'd do like a thick line. And because that had been dug in, I literally just follow the river. I push down again, but harder, and it just gives me the mass I need for that line weight. And so like, there's nothing that replicates that on the computer where they're like, we see the lines you've already drawn. Go ahead, do it again. Like there probably is something someone will say like, oh, you should try this program. But I really like the tactile feel of that. So I don't think I'll ever give that up. And then I scan them back in and I do the colors digitally, and that's what goes to print. Because I mean, when you're prepping something for print too, like you want it to be digital. If you send somebody a sketch and we're like, what can you do with this? They'd say literally nothing. Like, so.
Well, that's the thing is, we did a can. I have it in the fridge actually. One last can that's pretty old. I haven't even drank it yet. It was called Welcome to Orono, and it was outside of our Orono Brewing Company building in Margin Street in Orono. We have a tractor trailer truck that has a lot of our empty cans in it because we don't have storage in the building. So we just had a tractor trailer truck there that was just sitting there. It was blank white tractor trailer truck. We're like, this is stupid. We own the tractor trailer. We bought it. It's like, let's get our artist. We have a painter. His name is Marty Reynolds, who actually lives in Portland. Who has done the mural on our wall inside Orono Brewing Company and all that stuff. Let's have him come up and he'll paint this tractor trailer truck. And I had the bright idea, it was stupid, that, hey, let's put this on the can and let's call it Welcome to Orono, a beer called Welcome to Orono. This would be pretty badass. This is a badass painting. Let's put it on a can. And then I was tasked on getting it on a can. I'm like, what the hell? This is not going to work. And I'm like, tell you what, first of all, it's a tractor trailer truck, so it's super long. So a can is only, usually
you're gonna
8.5 inches. So like I can't. It's written out. It's not stacked. The letters aren't stacked. They aren't like, it's just crap. So we then had him come up. We're like, hey, come back up and let's
do it smaller.
Let's do it smaller, but I like make the same idea and don't put the lettering on it. I'll just match the lettering with a font. And I'll do the lettering on it so that I can move the lettering around. Let's just do the background, cool. The hop and all this stuff. So I come in one day and he's working and he's getting ready to work in the break room. We give him some space and I had to go do some other stuff. And I came back later on. He was done with a board that was this big. And I was like, now you didn't help me at all. How the hell am I going to get that into the computer? That doesn't fit in a scanning bed right now. So then I had to go out and call a photographer.
Yeah, you need a really good photo.
Can you take this board? I was able to trade a gift card to Orono Brewing Company. Can you get this board into high-res photo so then I can get it into the computer? But I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Why did I come up with this idea? It was one of our most popular cans, but it was like, why did I come up with this idea to try to get this tractor trailer truck onto a can?
Now you know what like painters go through. Like they have to get their shit professionally photographed. Otherwise they're posting terrible photos on Instagram and stuff. And you can imagine how like meticulous and precise they want to be with the colors and things that they've done. And like, man, that would suck. Like I tried painting for a while and I was okay at it, but I was so impatient with the whole process. It's like oil takes forever. And I was like, an acrylic dries too fast. I was like, I'm just going to use pencil. And I don't even really use ink. Like I use ink on my commissions, which you've seen, but every comic page you've ever seen for me is just 0.5 mechanical pencil. I don't use any ink. And I just like it better. It's like, does what I want it to, and it's fast and it looks fun. So,
We'll say what's cool about an iPad for someone who's getting into drawing. This is definitely something that you can do that you don't get frustrated in how bad you may be at the beginning. Because I feel like when I was starting to draw a little bit and illustrate, it was like you get frustrated with what you're looking at. You're crushing up a bunch of paper, like you said. With this, it's like, oh, I didn't like that line, and you can just erase it, or
yeah,
with Procreate or anything like that, you can just like tap away and say, get rid of that line. I just didn't do it over again. And
yeah.
so like it does help you learn how to draw a little bit, so that you can then eventually maybe
It
use a mechanical pencil
it
to draw.
it it gives you the freedom to erase. Like, so this is what I tell kids at school all the time is I say, like, draw lightly, like, because I drew very dark and all my artist friends were just like pressing down so hard. And what that does is if you mess up, you either keep it and you work with it and you accept it, or you throw it away and either start over or don't. But with the iPad or a Cintiq or something, it's like two fingers and it just takes away that line. And so that's why it's a great place for me to do roughs, because I can try all these new things. I'm trying like poses that I wouldn't risk on paper when I know like you've only got 7 times you can erase this whole thing before you just destroy the paper. You know what I mean? And so like I've been home the past 3 days because the AC here isn't here yet, and we have a little one at home, but it's a smaller space. And I've been drawing commissions and stuff on sketch covers, and even today, like I would draw, like I'd say, okay, I need to draw this ninja turtle. I'm gonna have a fist coming forward, and I would draw like the perfect fist and get up the arm and like get to the face, and then go, well, what are his legs doing? And then I would draw like the perfect leg, but it didn't match that, and I would erase everything I did, and I would do that whole process where like if you were watching it on time lapse, you'd see like a hand, and you'd be like, oh, that's dope, and then it'd be gone, and then you're like, oh, a leg, well, that leg's cool, oh, the foot's really, oh, it's gone, and I did like 7 poses for like the same turtle before I found one, because that's how I work digitally. But on paper, it's like you better figure this out pretty soon because you're chewing this thing up,
Do you
and
find
like
yourself
everyone's gonna
drawing on
see.
commissions on comic book covers and then tapping your fingers, hoping it would go away?
It's happened. It doesn't happen that often, but I always think about. I go, man, I wish I could just freaking. And sometimes I'll stick with a cover. Like I'll go, well, I'm not going to start over, and that's not a good way to go about it. I can usually make the best out of it, or that one I end up just keeping or something. But like that's a real benefit of the freedom of erasing or undoing when you're working digitally, and that's why I love it in the beginning and the end steps. Like you get to try a lot of stuff that you wouldn't try when you only have 5 or 6 times to do it. It's pretty cool. It's been a
It is
great
pretty cool, and it's
little
like it got me
aspect.
back into illustrating a little bit. I feel like I got too
Yeah,
frustrated with like I've been doing graphic design for so many years that again, it's not double tap or tap to get rid of it. It's just undo, and you undo what you did, or you move
yeah,
something from point A to point B. That text doesn't look very good straight on. Let's put it at a tilt, or the letters are too far, so let's put the kerning together, and so on. So there's been a bunch of things that I've been able to do, and then you take that freedom, I would say, away, and then you go into drawing on a piece of paper, and you're like, you don't have that freedom anymore. You got to do it right the first few
yeah.
times, or it's not any good anymore. And so when I got the iPad Pro, it was very helpful. The only thing I will say is I use GoodNotes as like a notebook, and GoodNotes is double tap to undo, and
You're doing it like once, just once.
Procreate's one tap to get two
Yeah,
fingers, but once to get rid of. So
2
you're
fingers.
like,
Yeah.
why isn't this deleting? And you're like, oh wait, I have to double tap it.
I don't think we're far away from. So what Wacom Cintiqs do? Have you ever used any of those?
I haven't used
Yeah,
that yet, but I looked into them. Yeah.
yeah. So what they do is you can program your hotkeys or your commands across the board, and I see iPad doing that too. Where you could say like every time I pick up my iPad, double tap in any program is the same as like Control Z or whatever. It's an undo.
It would be cool too, because if you double tap, like might go back in a Safari page, or something like that would be kind of
Yeah,
cool too, because it
yeah.
go
Why
back
not?
basically.
I think you'd be able to set it too. Like it's like for this program, it does this. For this program, it does that. Because you can do that on the Cintiq. Because I never use undo or redo on Photoshop on the buttons, because I change it to step backwards, step forward. Because if you do undo redo, you'll keep hitting it, but it only goes one step. If you step backwards, step forward, you can like pop, 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 and like go like 20 minutes into the past, you know, and see if you liked it better or not. But typically, like when I'm working digitally, I didn't really undo anymore. I just use 1,000 layers. Like I'm just like I might want that later, and I'll label it like Shane Bookman's face, Shane Ruff, like good hand. If you ever need a hand again, get that layer and just bring it up to the other one, like, which is also beneficial.
Yes, it
Saves
was
paper too. Yeah.
the cool thing about Procreate too is that it easily exports into Photoshop. So I was able to,
Mhm.
like, we did a beer called Gratitude that's coming out soon, and it's
Mhm.
basically I sketched out the hop with using the pencil on Procreate, and
Mhm.
then I wrote a little, I used a back lined paper like a in a notebook, and then I wrote gratitude across it in a nice thick marker pencil, like whatever, and then wrote a little note on it and a to and from. And the whole idea is like, thank you for doing whatever to me in my life. Thank you for getting through this COVID with me or whatever. And the idea is that you fill out, to Ben Bishop from Justin, and you give you a can of beer. And the
That's
idea is
cool.
like almost like a personal written thing. And I was able to just create it in Procreate. I imported a label, so I knew where my formats were, my rules and all that stuff were, and then I just draw on it. Then I exported it out to Photoshop, and I was able to just, like, on my computer, oh, I think that gratitude to the left about an inch would be great, and maybe I need
Yeah.
this, and I forgot we needed the Independent Brewers logo on there, and I was able to move things
Yeah.
around, which was very easy to do, which is pretty cool. If I just drew it on a piece of
Yeah.
paper, it'd basically be in that spot always. So
Well, it's the exact example you gave with the trailer. Like that was all fixed. The you couldn't move that text. It was on top of a painted image, and like so, if only that text was separate, you'd have a lot more freedom. And so, using layers and Procreate or Photoshop is like it's a huge game changer. I'm constantly looking for ways or utilizing ways to go back and forth. Like when you were saying gratitude and like the handwriting style, like you could literally, if you knew you were more comfortable with your hand and this specific highlighter or something that you had around, you could write it on paper, take a photo with your iPad, and then draw over the exact thing that you just wrote, or just vectorize it and pull it around and put it
yeah,
wherever you want it. Like, so I think it's all about finding the ways to do both in conjunction with each other to get the best result. Like, so many people out there still think, oh, you do that digitally means like you typed in a bunch of like numbers and then it printed out somehow. You're
it was
still drawing it. In fact,
it
it's
was
harder for a lot of people to draw digitally.
this is a pencil. It's still a pencil. It's
Yeah,
called an Apple
yeah,
Pencil, and that's still, like,
yeah,
I'm still drawing with a pencil.
yeah. The only benefit to that is you don't have to sharpen it, but you also don't have an eraser. So there's the pros and cons. Like,
I haven't found
you know,
myself flipping the thing around trying to erase yet, though. That hasn't happened yet, so that's pretty good.
on the Wacom you can
Oh,
flip
really?
it and erase. So I'm used to that. And so sometimes my mind when I'm on the iPad will go there, but then I remember. And on the new ones, you can just double tap it or something. But I guarantee you that's one or two pencils away where they finally just do it.
Yeah. Well, I have the pencil too. It has a double patch feature, but I rotate my, like, when I go to draw, I finagle my hand a
Um,
lot more. So and all of a sudden I look down and the line that I just drew is deleted because it thought I was double tapping the pencil. So I just got rid
so
of that
this,
altogether. Now it's just a pencil.
that's interesting. This is another
Yeah.
like super inside drawing that only people that draw might get or care. But I do that with the real mechanical pencil because the lead actually changes. If you're looking on a microscopic level, you've been drawing on this side of the lead, like you're going to get that. So I flip it like instinctually because I know, okay, I got to do like some fine stuff now and it's already sharpened for me. Like, and so I'm constantly flipping it based on how that pencil's been drawing. And it's like so intuitive. Like, if people can learn to draw and learn anatomy and learn how to render and stuff, but like until you start doing shit like that, I'm not saying you're not good, but that's when you're like in the zone and you're like, okay, this is how, like you don't even think about it, and that's really exciting stuff. That's what happens to anyone who gets used to digital too. You're using the key commands like a freaking musician or something.
Well, I
Um,
just laughed because
and
I was laughing at my fiance. I'll throw her under the bus a little bit here. But she was working on some stuff for our wedding. We have a questionnaire for our photographer, and we were talking about some things, and she was right clicking and putting paste, and right clicking and putting paste, and I'm like, Control V. What is
yeah,
going
that's
on right
easier.
now?
Boom, boom.
But she's just like, I
Yeah,
don't know. I just never did it. She uses AutoCAD. She's an engineer, so she uses AutoCAD. She knows all the shortcuts for AutoCAD, but she
uh,
doesn't use the Connect. Like, I'm just like, I was like, it was like infuriating me in a sense. I was like, oh my god, why are you not you? I just think that the guy who created Control C and Control V years ago was a genius.
yeah.
It's made it so much easier in my life.
And there's like key commands for almost everything, and those are like the popular ones.
Hmm.
I actually do the Wacom pen has a button on it that you can set to whatever you want. So I set it to right click. So that's a big part of my process too, because I can hover right over any layer and just hold that button and then go like duplicate delete, whatever, add to group. So that has been super useful. But Apple's never put in buttons on their pencil, so I'm not banking on it.
Hey, it
But
was
it's
it,
just
but Steve Jobs said there would never be a stylus for an iPad
yeah.
either. So
He didn't
one of
think
these
that
days
they
it
would
could.
ever be so good at drawing on the iPad. Like the responsiveness is nuts. I think you get a more realistic drawing experience from the iPad than you do on my 32 Cintiq. I like the 32 because I can do these big, huge freaking lines, and I have all this screen real estate to put up reference and other pages and stuff. But when I'm drawing on the iPad, it's the closest thing to drawing on paper, uh, tactily and the
Mhm.
responsiveness. I think just gotta get the right brushes. If
And I do
anyone out
use
there is like,
Apple H when I hide my Photoshop and Illustrator, but Illustrator is the
see,
only
I didn't even
program.
know that. I
Apple
don't even
H because I
use
have a
that. I
Mac
didn't even
on my
know that.
MacBook. I don't like in order to hide like if I go to my mail and I use
Mhm.
Apple H to like hide the mail, so they go to the next program. So instead of minimizing or anything like that, I use Apple H, which like hides the program. It kind of like minimizes it, but it puts it in the background. And I was having a discussion with Andy Hurt, the other guy that helps with some of the cans for OBC. I said, dude, the new Photoshop I just downloaded for Photoshop CC doesn't Apple H hid your guidelines. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? For freaking
They
10
changed it on
years,
you.
it's like it's
Yeah.
been Apple H. So I had it on my old computer. And then when I got my new computer, I downloaded Photoshop CC again, brand new, obviously a brand new version of it. And I went to press Apple H instinctively to hide it. And it was like, Apple H does something else now. Do you want it to do this thing? And I was like, yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You just
Oh,
have to
that's cool.
change
They
the
let you. Yeah.
settings. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so that was on my mind. But yeah, the iPad is definitely one
The
of the best
latest
things I
Photoshop,
purchased.
the latest Photoshop, or maybe it was the last update, they finally changed it. So when you do free transform, for people who don't know, it's a way to scale something that you've drawn. So if I drew that face too small, like I said, you can grab a corner of it and just blow it up or shrink it down or spin it around or reverse it, whatever you want to do. But until the last update or the update before the last update, you would grab a corner and it would be like wonky, stretch and skew. And everyone would constantly have to hold shift because like, no, I don't want it wonky. No one ever wants it wonky. We want to scale it, not stretch and skew. And now they've switched it. So if you press shift, it goes, well, it gets all fucky. And so I've been like getting used to that, but it's like something I'm thankful that they changed, but I have to wrap my head around it again.
It's going to take 6 months of using your Photoshop for it to actually
Yeah.
register. Same thing me. I'll do it. Luckily, when you're doing it, you're dragging and you realize it's wonky. All you need to do is let go of shift, and it
Yeah.
will go back to
Yeah.
Uh,
There's a couple things Procreate does better than Photoshop. You can do, um, okay, there's a couple things Photoshop does better than Procreate for sure. Is the straight lines is huge for
mhm.
me. So you hold down shift and you can draw
Yep.
straight up and downs, vertical and horizontal, which is great for panel borders if you're doing comic books. Procreate, you can do it. You have to hold two fingers and you can do it, but it's not as seamless. You got to hold two fingers and then it'll like want to snap to wherever you are. So that's been troubling, but I usually do, when I'm doing roughs on Procreate, they're more rough than they would be on my other computer. But it allows me to be on the road at conventions or at home when I have no AC and just still get work done. I like to make it so I have no excuse to not do anything. Like I have two desks at home, just like I do here. I've got a computer at home, got iPad. So you try to not let yourself get away with slacking off as a self-employed person.
Well, that's true, and it's like one
Yeah.
of the things that you would always say is like I could have bought a MacBook or an iPad or a MacBook or sorry, MacBook, like an Apple computer, like an Apple Mini or whatever, a desktop computer or a good well working um, desktop Windows computer even to do all my design on. But it's like now I'll go out and we'll spend $2,400 on a laptop that is robust enough for me to do my design work on it,
Oh
but I
yeah.
can close it and bring it home with me. So now I don't have any excuse. Everywhere I go, if my
The same
fiance and I are
workspace.
going camping or whatever, I can always have it with me. So if something's going wrong at work or I need to start working, we're out in the middle of the woods, but I need to do some design work because I need some like natural feel around me or whatever, I can still work on it and it's all in one spot. The cloud's helpful,
Yep.
but like I just don't, all my stuff is stored in a hard drive or locally on most of the stuff because it's just like
Mhm.
dealing with the internet. I don't want to have to create connection to the internet. So I could be like in my car somewhere, pull up a file, work on it,
Mhm.
and then if I need to, I can hold my hotspot on my phone to send the file or to, oh crap, it is an email, I could download it or whatever.
Yeah.
But like
I had
having
I
that
had to do that.
portability and
I had to do that with the Raphael story we did. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's all due. And so we're all like rushing to do it. And we get the final stuff done. And then we're like waiting, and I'm on the road. Like I don't remember why, but I was in Vermont and there's no service where I was. And I was like, okay, we'll see I was on my way back from um, Kevin Eastman Studios in Northampton because I just signed like 180 drawing blood books or something. And I, instead of taking like the cruddy Massachusetts way, I went through like Vermont for a second, and it happened to be like right when they needed changes on a couple pages. So I turned my phone to a hotspot. I had my computer plugged into my freaking lighter outlet, and I was just like, okay, here we go. And I did it all in my car at like some restaurant parking lot. And it's great to be able to do that. It's also great to not work sometimes, but
yes.
maybe
Well, that's the other
the
part.
future.
It's like I have to. We are looking to buy a house at some point, and there's a house on Margin Street. We're 61 Margin Street for OBC. It's 107 Margin Street. So it's like it's down the freaking street, and everybody around me is like, "You're gonna be too close to work, man. You're gonna be too close to work." And I was like, you know what? My work goes everywhere with me. So whether I'm a block away from work, or if I'm at home, or in, you know, Arizona or California or whatever, I'm always going to have my laptop with me. I'm never going to be working like, oh, I got to work for 6 hours on the road. But if I'm not at home, there's always a time, like you were just saying with your book, that you need to do a couple things or whatever. There's always a time, hey, Justin, this is not showing up on our register. Okay, log on to our server, add somebody to the register, bam. It takes me 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 5 minutes, but it gets done. And it's like the capability of traveling with things for someone with back-end computer issues has been able to be done for years. It hasn't been until more recently that someone like you, who's an artist who has to draw comic books for a living, has even able to actually do that. I mean, there has been
I've
like
been
the
working.
tablet things, but like
Yeah.
having something like an iPad Pro or along those lines has not been. This is all within the past couple of years, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've been working on being as able to work portably as I am at home or at the studio for a wicked long time. The first portable tablet I bought was called the Axiotron Mod Book. It was this
Awesome
third-party
name.
company. Have you heard of it?
No, but it's an awesome name.
You remember those plastic white MacBooks? They ripped the screen off, they ripped the keyboard out, they put the screen where the keyboard was, and they put this like aircraft metal all around it, and it held a pen, and it basically turned your MacBook into a tablet. It was the hottest thing you've ever put on your thigh. It got so hot the plastic cracked and like the things would warp. But no one had ever tested them except us. Like there was like 1,000 people or 2,000 people that got them. Lasted me as long as it could. Got the job done. Wasn't awesome, but that was back in like 2010, and it was like, okay, I'm trying to figure it out. And then I got the Wacom Companion, which was their answer to that. And so instead of a big Wacom tablet that hooks up to your desktop, it was one you could take with you. But that was all PC based. The actual computer on it was Windows, and I wanted to kill myself because it's so unintuitive and shitty. So I hate all you Windows people. I pick up my computer to draw, and it's like, we're going to force you to do this update. It's going to take 3 hours. There's nothing you can do about it. And you're like, okay. And not to mention, it came with a power block like this fucking big, and you're just like,
bigger than the actual
travel
tablet
with it. Yeah. And so everyone who got a Companion was like, I made a mistake, and they're trying to resell it and stuff. So then, the iPad was coming up, and things were getting there, but it was really just like, if you're on the road, you're not working as well. Until now, like, it's actually possible. Like, artists are they're going out of their way to prove that it is a workable device for real work. Like, they're doing billboard size illustrations on an iPad that are in Times Square, and they're just like, yeah, see, resolution's there. In fact, it's even better sometimes than what you can do.
Yeah, and you can also create those vectorized images that are small that you can actually scale up to be massive things, which you can't, like, you don't have to draw, you don't have to go out there and paint the tractor trailer truck.
No.
In the future, I could do all that on an iPad with the paintbrush and then print it out on a massive scale to put on the thing. It's like, but we've been talking a little bit too much nerdy things about iPads and stuff like that. But I really appreciate. I think we're gonna kind of tie things up here a little bit. So
sure, man.
Bish Kids Club is something, and you only allow that to be joined at a certain time, or can you join anytime? I joined at a
No,
certain time.
you can join it. So the Bishart Kids Club, bishartkidsclub.com. You can read all about it. BISHART. You can read all about it, and it's a monthly subscription kind of membership thing. But the boxes ship quarterly, so every 3 payments you get a box. There's tiers where you don't even get a box. If you just want to either support or get a discount code, everybody gets a discount code for at least 10% off everything every time you see me or online. But yeah, you can join anytime. But if you join mid-quarter, you won't be charged until the first month of the following quarter. So that's pretty awesome because you could join now and you won't. The next following quarter is actually July 31st. So you don't have that much of a window to not to be in it for free. But that way you'll be right on track for the next box. So some people join in the middle because they saw something that came out previously and like, man, I really want that. And it's like, well, sorry, that was part of the other box. But what happens is, like I said, I have just shy of 100 members, so I'm doing 100 print runs right now. And so those extras are going up into the members only store. So even if you have missed stuff, you can cherry pick right now. But pretty soon that might not be the case. Like it'll be the case every now and then, but once we hit 100 members, I can just do a 100 print run. When we're at like 125 members, I'll probably do 150 print run, like et cetera, et cetera. So there'll always be a little bit of overflow, but it ebbs and flows. But yeah, Bishart Kids Club, you get a membership discount code, you get quarterly boxes. The highest tiers, you get commissions. I know you're looking for the original piece of art. The highest tiers are limited though, because my time is limited. So I think there's only eight spots. Somebody today, actually 2 guys from the club actually switched spots just so the other one could get a commission, which is super cool. Like the group is so nice to each other. They talk constantly. The Facebook Messenger has been
Constantly.
like, it's been like this unexpected thing. Like, I had no idea it was going to create this sort of like camaraderie. And like, if someone's looking for a book, like, how much is this worth? Or do you guys have access to this? I told people today, I was like, if you see the new Casey Jones Raphael 2-pack at Walmart, can someone grab me one? And like, we're always helping each other out. That's stuff that I never expected to happen. When we get together at cons, it's like a family. We do like these big dinners, and it's amazing. And we probably won't be able to do that when we hit like 500 people. So we get it on the ground floor.
You have to rent a hall.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
But it's funny too,
yeah,
because like awesome. Even listening to you talk to Troy Little and Kevin Eastman and stuff like that, they gave you a little bit of shit for your able to start up this that you call your gang. You know, you have your little gang, your little club that you had started. That we're all here to protect Ben. If anybody tries to hurt Ben, we're all here to defend him.
There's a couple guys in the group who are total mob mentality. Like literally, I think they're in the mob. And they're like, you want me to do something? You want me to roll up on him? And I'm like, no. Like I try very hard to not let it become a cult. I want to go on record that's saying that was never the intention. If that happens, it's on them.
It's not them. Me. It's not me. Okay. You're changing your name. It's not the Bishart Kids Club anymore.
We joke about it a lot though. The Bishart Kids cult. It's not the intention. And I talk them off of that pretty often. They just look out for each other, sometimes too fiercely.
And I check. I have it open on my Facebook, so I have like the little tab at the bottom. That's the one that stays always open, but it is muted. It had to be muted. I couldn't do like so. Yeah. So, but like I'll go on and I'll like scroll up and look through. Like I'll check it regularly, like almost like you're checking your voicemail or your messages. But like I'd check it regularly. But it is something that I'm like, okay, some of these people just don't do anything else but talk to each other on the chat. It's just
And the other thing they do, another unexpected thing that came out of it, is they just are so mean to me. And it's all in good fun, but they're like, hey Ben, where's my commission? Blah, blah, blah. Like just like total giving me shit all the time. Where's Aggregate 2? How's that going? Oh, we pay to be your friend. Yeah. And it's hilarious, but it's like, come on, like leave me alone.
But I did the same thing. My buddy Josh opened Queen City Cinema Club in here in Bangor. It's like a private movie theater where you can like rent a theater and watch a movie and play board games and video games. And I gave him, he was a bartender at a bar that we sold our beer to at Blaze in Bangor. And I would go up to him every time, like, so when are you going to open your shop? So when are you going to open this place, huh? And he'd be like, what the hell, man? Come on. So then he opened it, and like 6 months after he opened it, I'm like, I can't believe you're still in business, man.
Yeah, just like so mean. Yeah, but it's like a loving mean. Like,
yes.
If I were to get like really upset, like they would, I don't think they'd stop, but they'd go, hey, I was kidding. And I go, okay. And then they'd do it again in a couple of minutes. But they are contributing to my anxiety and stress.
But it's
in
cool.
one
I
way or
think it
another.
is because there's just a lot of things out there that are like Patreon that just that you don't like. You just support these people because you like them, and they give out like a lot of them are podcasts. You give out this podcast for free, but obviously they need to support it, and they don't have enough advertisers or whatever. So like, hey, give us $5 a month because you like listening to it. It is free, but
Mhm.
thank you. And a lot of times they'll do like special podcasts here and there, but it's like
Mhm.
having this idea that this club is. I also am subscription to the Marvel Collector Core, which is like the
Mhm.
box that you get the
I did
Funko Pops and stuff like that, and
I
like
did that for a little bit, yeah.
and it's really cool to get that. And a lot of times I feel myself that only nowadays, excuse me, there has to be a certain pop for me to actually go out and buy it now. Like it's to the point where like I have too many of them, and it's like I don't need any more of them, and I'm not the kind of guy that's like keep them in the box because they're worth a bunch of money. Like I don't like a lot of these. I don't care. The only one I actually still have in the box is the child from Mandalorian, the Baby Yoda. I still have that one in the box. So I'm like, I don't know. It's over on the shelf in the corner.
You might as
But yeah,
well.
yeah.
If
This
you
this
ever have second thoughts, that can be the one you get two of.
yeah.
Like,
And so I got some Black Widow ones the other day, and I was just like, you know what? I probably would never have purchased these, like going to the store to buy them. But it's like, okay, every quarter or every 2 months, I think it is now, I just get it in the mail, and it's pretty cool. And a lot of times they're unique ones. Like I have a Mysterio that lights up, and there's some cool ones that come into it. But that's like just a corporation that's just sending the shit out. It's not like there's no heart involved in it. There's no
mhm.
connection. I don't know anybody else that's part of this collector course. I can't talk to them and like discuss
I love
things.
that. I love that about it, and we never expected it. Like, it was so crazy. Like the amount that they talk to each other. Like, I thought about like building a forum or something, and I was like, we'll just use Facebook Messenger, and like they, like we all talk. We say good morning, we say good night. Like they schedule Zoom calls. It's fucking awesome. Like it's so cool.
The
Um,
creepiness is when they're looking in your window saying goodnight. That's when it's
yeah,
across the
yeah,
line.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's something that I've got to consider because like we're still very small, like under 100 members. But like, how personal do I be when we're like 500 or 1,000 or something? Like, I'm always gonna. It's an experiment. I'm always gonna try to be because I think that that's one of the cool things about it. I think that's what they like about it. So I'm always going to try and make sure that I'm there and talking and interacting and sharing exclusive stuff. And hopefully there's no moles in there that are just there to like sneak it out or something. But like I want to do that, and I found that that's been good for me. That's been huge for me on Instagram is to like split my Instagram between art, but also like I'm a real dude. I'm grilling. These are my cool dogs, and people are like, "Whoa, I've got a dog like that." And like we talk about other stuff. It doesn't have to be like here's a page I did, here's a page I did, there's so many artists like that. It's like gets kind of stale, I think.
And they're
I
also
think about what I like from my favorite artists.
exactly. And there's some
Yeah.
artists that I follow that I absolutely love. And one of my tattoos is Scotty Young, who did the
Oh
Run the
yeah, yeah.
Jewels Pistol in the Fist.
Mhm.
But it's funny how his progression was. If you look back on his Instagram like a long time ago, it was like mostly him and his kids and his wife and doing this, that, and the other. And then recently
Mhm.
it's been like daily sketch. And like of the past couple of months, it's just been a bunch of artwork. And it's like you lost that. I love Scotty. He's one of my favorite artists. But like
Mhm.
as you progress, it's like now it's just his art over and over again. It's the same thing we deal with the Orono Brewing Company. It's like after a while, people don't want to just see pictures of cans of beer. Like after a while,
Mhm.
people don't want to just see someone drinking a beer. You gotta sometimes
Mhm.
post a picture of a sunset and just be like, dude,
Yeah.
this state's freaking amazing. Look how awesome this state is. We
Yeah,
are in this cool state.
with a caption that's actually from your brain, and
Yes. It
it's
just
not a
makes a little bit more
sponsored
sense.
post.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think what it'll turn into, best case scenario, is like maybe I don't see my Instagram getting overwhelmed because I can post whatever I want. People can take it or leave it. But like for the more like, okay, here's sneak peeks, or oh, I had a shitty morning, and like I'll vent and like rant about like, oh, this person wants me to turn everything to a vector. Vectors are stupid. No one needs vectors. Like fuck vector, fuck Adobe Illustrator. Like I'll say that to the club. Like so if you want to get that personal experience, at some point the club will be the only way. And that's not intentional. That's just a byproduct of the growth, hopefully. I mean,
It's
I
your
started
family
the
though. It's your
club.
extended
Yeah.
family. It's not. It's
Yeah.
you have your actual family. You have your wife and you have your actual relatives and people. But like, it's a family that you get to have. That's in
It
your like.
is.
It's my beer family. I don't. I mean, there's a Maine Brewers Guild Facebook board that we post like, hey, I need a bag of grain or I need this, that, or the other thing, and it's like it becomes that family that I am also in a group called the Hop family. I forget the name of the whole group, but it's like it's beer people who just talk about, hey, do you see this brewery opening or you see this brewery closing or this beer has this cool beer coming in. I'm going to this beer dinner. I am going to have people over and drink beer this weekend. You're creating that in a comic book thing, because those people in that Bish art, including myself, I haven't taught most in there because I'm obviously very busy recently, but like they talk about not just comic books that you're involved in. They're talking about comic books in general.
And they're showing me commissions they've got from other people. They're shooting the shit about like, hey, just so you know, this person takes commissions, but they take forever and they don't respond to me and things like that. And so like I'm not going to join in and like talk smack about other guys. In fact, I'll usually be like, well, I'm sure they're really busy. There's no excuse for not responding and just pretending they didn't get the message, yada, yada, yada. But like they'll let each other know about what's going on. And I think that's good for the industry to be like,
and you can learn that too. Like if you know that like, oh crap, I noticed that there's like 3 different people who said that people haven't communicated. I've been slacking a little bit on communications. Maybe I'll step that up a little bit so that you're not one of those people either, which is kind of cool. You learn from the experiences.
It's a big like R&D group a little bit. Like I do that. Like you mentioned earlier about like kind of a focus group or something, or getting like back and my headphones died, but can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Getting that feedback, like I don't specifically use it for that, but every now and then if I'm stuck on something or I just want them to have a contribution the same way Kickstarter backers like having a contribution, I'll be like, well, cover you guys like, and they'll say, oh, use this one instead of that one, and I'll go with it. And it's cool. And if I were in a club with an artist I really like, I would think that was, and there's artists in our group too that some of them can draw like just as good as me. It's like, you just started a group. Like,
But your headphones dying is actually a good sign that we probably should wrap this up even more. But so Bish Arts Kids Club is an awesome thing. I just started, so obviously I'll give an update on a future podcast on how well the box came out. Yeah, I'll do an unboxing. There you go. And then you have bishart.net, which you can find out more about you and your projects. But you can also buy some pretty cool stuff that's on there, some prints, some comic books. Most of the things are signed or one of a kind.
There's a store link in there that links out to my store, and I keep my store pretty heavily stocked. I pay for a lot of items, so I'm using them.
Yeah, and so it's pretty cool. I mean, I go on there almost every week just seeing what there is, and I'm adding things to the cart and seeing if I want to buy it and all this stuff. So it's pretty fun. And you can also follow Ben on most social medias. You're at Bishart on Twitter and Instagram, right? And you have Facebook pages. I won't link your Facebook page. So I like to link Instagram and Twitter, but like if you want to find Ben on Facebook, I'm sure he'll let you add him as a friend. But I'm always like, at some point, you get to a point where you have too many people on your Facebook page that
I mean, for now it's fine if you want to do it. I say if you're going to join the club, definitely send me a friend request because I got to add you to the group and stuff like that. But otherwise, we have some mutual friends. I'll probably accept it. I haven't hit my limit yet. So.
Well, I think they keep updating that because I feel like I added someone. I used to promote a festival, and when I used to go to that festival, there was a guy that I added. He was at like the 1,000 friend mark or whatever at one point, and he had to like start like going through weekly and deleting people that really either don't have a Facebook profile anymore or whatever because he couldn't get there. But I feel like Facebook now has like it's like 10,000 is the limit or something like that.
So here's the breakdown. My Twitter, don't follow me on Twitter if you don't want political crap. It's the only place I go political. Facebook is like a little bit in between where I'll like post something kind of passive aggressive that might be political, but it's also the place where I port my stuff from Instagram. So if you just want art and dogs and grilling and beer, Instagram is the place to be.
Or if you want an update on how the dam building is going on the river behind
they
and through those windows over there.
I've got this whole awesome river, and I've been here for like 2 months, and then they blocked it off because they're pulling out an old dam because it used to be like crazy rapid. And hopefully it'll be all smooth when they're done, and I can kayak right from the parking lot. So that'll be nice.
But it's just kind of funny. It's like I was like, oh, look at that. Ben has a new story. Oh, it's ducks. They're ducks, and then
like everyone loves the ducks. They're like, hey, someone on Twitter like followed me on Instagram too. It was like, can I get an update on those ducks? And it just so happened they were like there again. And I was like, they're still here. They're still okay. It's like a family of like 7 ducks. And I'm like, what the hell are they going to do? They're blocked in on both sides. There's dump trucks. There's like diggers. Like there's this
like jackhammers and all these guys walking around. I'm like so scared for the ducks.
I just have deer in my side yard, deer and baby deer. Like where I was sitting out watching TV the other night, we were literally sitting 20 feet from us. This mama deer like walks in the side yard and was just like there, and like kind of looks over at us, and we're like, oh my god,
Hey man,
yeah, exactly. And then
where it's at.
five
It's the way life should
seconds
be.
later, two baby deer just run up and like frolic towards the mom, and they kind of like run off into the woods. But we're like sitting there watching TV. There's audio playing, and like we're not being quiet. We're talking. They didn't give a crap. And I'm like, oh, this is so amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's super cool. Well, maybe one day, Orono and Mason's. I don't know the politics, but maybe we can do something.
Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. There's a bunch of stuff going on, and I know you have you drew Drawing Blood cans for the Bangor Comic-Con. That obviously is now in October, which Ben will be at, right? You're still planning on, hopefully, if it happens. We're all like
as long as it
crossing
happens,
our fingers. That happens in October in Bangor. You can get the tickets to the Bangor Comic-Con website, or link on their Facebook page. Ben's working on Aggregate 2, which is awesome, and Drawing Blood 2. That's all coming out, and look for his cans in store and stuff like that too. But give Ben a follow. I really appreciate you coming on today, man.
It's fun.
It's been a honor. Like when I started the podcast, I wanted to talk to people that I have a passion with, not just people who can further your cause and like get people to listen to your podcast. So it's it's a balance. So like my first couple of people, I talked to Jay Cochran from Bangor Comic Con, but also he's my tattoo artist. So it's like, let's talk tattoos, man. And like talking that tattoos is fun. And I've talked to a couple of people where it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And everybody's been a great guest, but it's like comic books is my like passion. And then you obviously intersected with the beer and drawing beer cans as well. So
Jay intersects with the beer too, right? Is he still at Gagan's?
He's not there anymore, but we have that. I used to work with Jay at the Gagan State restaurant. My first job for a brewery was at Gagan's, and I grew up with Andy Gagan. But so Jay and I go way back, and so yes, whenever I go get a tattoo, it's usually like pay for the tattoo and here's a case of beer because
Nice.
and then he'll be like halfway through the tattoo and he'll be like, hey man, do you mind if I have a beer? I'm like, that's cool, but don't drink up multiple ones. This is permanently on my arm. Like you can't.
Yeah, don't get super fucking. That's funny.
And then he'll be like, hey man, you want a beer? I'm like, I don't think that's okay. I don't think I can have a beer because it thins your blood. He's like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess. So that's a good takeaway for everyone. Maine is like comics, beer, tattoos, trades. That's
wildlife. Because you have your ducks, and I have my deer.
Yeah.
There we go. There's a Mason's OBC collab beer called Ducks and Deer or something like that.
Yeah. I like it. I'll keep thinking on that. I'd be down. I think we can convince the powers ahead up top,
But it's pretty cool to talk to you and chat with you again. Or for the first time. Actually, this is the first time me actually physically chatting with Ben, but we've talked via Messenger and stuff like that. So really appreciate it, man. We'll again, bishart.net is the big one, and at bishart on social media. Give him a follow. Come see him at Comic-Con in Bangor if you're in the Bangor area, because hopefully it happens and you can meet him and get some artwork or get something signed or take a picture with him or whatever.
Yeah, hopefully it's safe enough to happen. Otherwise, we'll see you at the new rescheduled date.
2021, like 2025. But I appreciate it, man. Yeah, exactly. Have a good night, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, you too, dude.